Processed foods are like cigarettes in the 1980s?
You mean the thing that we don't quite know is killing us, but is actually killing us? Yeah, absolutely. I think RFK Jr. said it really well, and this is timely, that we're clearly being poisoned. I mean, anyone who looks at Westernized Americans from a zoomed out perspective over the last 50 years can see that something has gone horribly wrong with us. Obesity rates, diabetes, cancer, autoimmune disease, everything is going the wrong direction. And yet we are being counseled by our government to eat healthy, and more people will respond to surveys saying they're eating healthy. More people will respond to surveys saying they're exercising. Less people are smoking, but everything is going in the wrong direction. We're fatter, sicker, less healthy, more depressed. So what's going on here? There's something happening.
Yeah, and what do you say to people who say, we're just eating more calories because food is better tasting and cheaper and more available, so it's just calories, it's not the GMOs, it's not the processed foods at all. What do you think?
I think they're wrong. I think that if you look at data, we are not really eating more calories. If we're eating more calories, it's small, and it doesn't account for the increase in all of these chronic illnesses that are just really doubling over the span of 20 or 30 years. I mean, that's not just 100 extra calories a day. And then you have to look at it from a holistic perspective and ask, why are we eating more calories? Food is not more available today than it was in the 1970s. You can still go to the grocery store. There were no shortages in the 1970s. Yeah. Humans could eat the exact same amount of food. So some studies suggest that we're not eating more calories. Some studies suggest that we're eating slightly more calories. But if we are eating more calories, and I think in general a lot of people have the issue, and it's with satiety. And I think that that is another insidious problem with ultra-processed food, is that it makes us more hungry. And that hunger cue is very, very hard for us to ignore, if not impossible, nearly impossible. You can be super disciplined and lose weight eating Twinkies, but eventually that hunger is just going to catch up with you. You can lose weight with a caloric deficit of bagels or potatoes or any junk food. It's not that you can't lose weight eating processed food. It's just going to be much more difficult. And when we look at studies, when we put humans in controlled environments, and there's now 2 studies on this. Kevin Hall did a study, and there was recently a researcher in Japan that did kind of the same thing. They can put humans in a feeding ward where they control all of their intakes, and they present people with very similar sets of meals. One of them is ultra-processed food. One of them is essentially unprocessed food. They try and match the foods for presented calories, presented fat, protein, carbohydrates, presented salt, sugar, all of those things. And people are allowed to eat as much as they want, and the ultra-processed foods group invariably eat more. They come back for seconds and thirds. So there's probably something in these foods that are also sabotaging satiety. And that is kind of the beginning of the problem.
Interesting. What if the counter-argument was that they just taste better than the healthy foods, and so we want more of that? Could that be an argument or no?
Taste better is that's a subjective thing, right? Taste better is happening in your brain, right? So taste better is not something that we can objectively measure.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it gets confusing sometimes as a consumer. Like, I have a lot of people on the podcast, and I am not a nutritionist, I am not a doctor, I try to stay fit, but it's confusing because there seems to be a war going on between multiple sides of the coin. And I think the war is interesting in a few ways. Like, even I was watching in a video where you said canola oil is toxic sludge and got flagged as misinformation on Instagram. Like, what is canola oil? That was fascinating, your video. And like, why do you think that gets tagged as misinformation?
Right. So it's kind of like, who writes the history books?
Yeah.
Who determines what is truth? In 2024, if I'm saying it on Instagram, Meta determines what is truth, right? If I'm saying it on X, Community Notes determines what is truth. And that's a little bit better situation, thanks Elon. Not perfect, but a group of community members can have a more sort of democratic process than Meta. Mark Zuckerberg and his CEO of Instagram get to say, well, we've decided that we're going to look at this one meta-analysis, which is a study of studies on seed oils. And this researcher, usually they reference a meta-analysis from a researcher at Tufts. His name's Darius Mozaffarian, the same guy who gifted us with the Food Compass guidelines that told us that Fruit Loops and Cheerios were healthier than ground beef and eggs.
That's not great.
The same individual, clearly very omniscient when it comes to nutrition, very wise nutritional researcher, wrote a meta-analysis looking at some of the randomized controlled trials with seed oils, and he determined that no, seed oils are not bad for human health. So if I contradict him without actually getting to debate him or directly criticize his meta-analysis, which is kind of cherry-picked, then Meta can just say, nope, we're fact-checking you. So there is no objective truth in 2024. It just depends on the platform in which you are saying something. So they can say whatever they want, you know? And you see this now post-election. You see this now. People are just, it's a war of fact-checking, right? And who fact-checks the fact-checkers? There's no one, I don't have the ability on Meta to come back on the back end and say, actually, here's why I think you're wrong. Here's why I actually think canola oil is problematic. So in answer to your question, canola oil is made from rape seeds, which are not actually a food for humans. It's different, perhaps, if we're talking about corn oil, because we eat corn, and we can talk about corn oil, right? I'm not a fan of corn oil either, and to get the equivalent of maybe 5 tablespoons of corn oil, you'd have to eat 70 ears of corn, which is a whole separate conversation. But rape seeds have never been eaten by humans, and really cannot be eaten by humans. If you just take rapeseed oil, there is a large amount of this monounsaturated fat called erucic acid in rapeseed oil. And that is linked to cardiomyopathy, heart issues in animal studies, and so it's actually banned. You cannot sell rapeseed oil. You also can't sell mustard seed oil for similar reasons. Researchers, I think in the 1980s or 1990s, genetically modified rapeseed oil to a low erucic acid variant, but still containing this fatty acid, and that was what was called canola oil. So canola is an acronym for Canadian oil low acid. There's no such thing as canola, right? This is the rapeseed or the Canola Producers Association of Canada thinking, hey, we have fields and fields of canola oil. We have fields and fields of this rapeseed, like let's do something with it. This is often how seed oils got into our food supply. They were used originally for other things. Originally in the early 1900s, they were used as engine lubricants and on ships in World War I and World War II because they stay slippery when they are wet. They still maintain lubrication. So they were industrial byproducts, and now they've been used in our food supply. So that's the first thing that kind of should make us question, like, is this something we want to eat? So canola oil, not really a food for humans, contains small amounts of erucic acid, but like all of the seed oils, and this is why I think we can really draw a swath across the seed oils, whether it's canola, corn, sunflower, safflower, soybean, those are the big ones, sometimes peanut. They're all refined, bleached, and deodorized. So there's a great video on YouTube of how to make canola oil, and you see these little seeds that are in this extruding press, and they're kind of like waxy substances getting pressed out. Then you get this murky oil, which then has to be heated and then refined and bleached and deodorized and extracted with hexane, which can be contaminated with benzene. So you get these neurotoxic components that are even used to make the oil. Then it has to be deodorized again, multiple times heated to very high temperatures, as high as 500 degrees Fahrenheit. So you have a polyunsaturated oil, which is a fragile oil, which can become rancid, quote unquote, quickly, being heated to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. The boiling temperature of water is 212, right? So that's like basically a very, very, very hot stove. It's insanely high temperature for an oil like that, and you quickly break the oil. You degrade the oil very quickly. So then you take all of that and you package it into a plastic bottle, which leaches cadmium, lead, and antimony into the oil, and it sits on the shelf of a grocery store getting exposed to artificial light for months at a time and oxidizing further. And we are told by the American Heart Association that that is a heart-healthy option because it lowers LDL.
That is just such a mindfuck.
And it's completely myopic because the only metric that we're using to say that it's healthy is LDL lowering, which is a whole nother ball of wax.
Running a podcast or any content operation is a grind. The editing, the clipping, the captions. It's enough to make anyone quit before the fun even starts. Enter Riverside. This tool is your content powerhouse. Forget decent quality virtual calls. Riverside gives you 4K video, pristine audio, and makes deadweight tasks disappear faster than bad ideas. Their text-based editor slashes, silences, and edits errors with one click. Needing some extra clips? Riverside's AI Magic Clips finds the moments people actually care about and delivers them to you. No guessing, no endless replays. And here's the kicker. You don't even need to record in the platform to use its features. You have the option to upload your footage to Riverside, letting it handle the heavy lifting. So you can save your brain power for the creative stuff. So stop drowning in edits, get busy creating, hit the link in the description, use code Cody, and thank me later. My father has high blood pressure, like so many Americans do. He's older. And what's interesting is I've heard you talk about this, that what does he do? He goes to the doctor. The doctor gives him a series of pills for him to take. There's some talk of nutrition, marginal at best. And after years of being at the same doctor, nutrition is really not mentioned whatsoever. It's simply management of symptoms with these pills for this long. And I remember once we were going on a trip and he had forgotten his blood pressure medicine. And he's not particularly overweight or anything like that. He's quite normal. And he was worried about that. And I thought, oh my God, we have a healthy man sort of tied to a drug for something that I think you could fix with exercise and nutrition, theoretically.
100%.
What's going on there? And if you have high blood pressure, should you just take the pills? Is that the right answer alone?
So there's two different categories of high blood pressure, right? There's like primary hypertension and secondary hypertension. The majority of people who go to their doctor and get diagnosed with high blood pressure have primary hypertension, which is just related to diet and lifestyle. And most people, even in the mainstream medical community, would agree with that. Secondary hypertension is very rare. It can be caused by tumors that secrete things that change the blood volume. We're not talking about secondary hypertension. That's a diagnosable medical condition that requires a more sophisticated workup. Primary hypertension is the majority of what we see. My father had hypertension, right? And it is essentially an indication of vascular dysregulation. So the inside of our blood vessels, these are veins on my arm, but inside our arteries. When you're measuring blood pressure, you're really looking at the arterial pressure, not the venous pressure. So they put a stethoscope on your arm and they measure the arterial pressure in an artery that runs here in my arm. And so that is caused by dysregulation of the cells that line those arteries and don't allow them to expand and contract in a healthy manner. This is arterial dysfunction. Vascular dysfunction is what causes high blood pressure. Most of the time related to systemic inflammation in the body and linked to insulin resistance, also known as metabolic dysfunction. Insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction, almost entirely fixable with primarily diet, intentional dietary choices, and a moderate amount of exercise. You don't have to be a marathon runner. And in fact, you probably don't want to be a marathon runner because you can go too far with exercise. So yes, this is a condition that is completely fixable, but as physicians, we are not taught to talk to patients that way. We are given this sort of subtle propaganda in medical school that your patients won't make dietary change. It's too hard for them. Right. Don't even bother asking. Or if you do, spend 30 seconds and say, hey, why don't you come back the next visit? Like, increase the quality of your diet. Like, eat some healthier foods. I'll see you in a month if it gets better. That's all I'm going to say to them. Eat healthier foods. What is a patient going to do with that? Go for a walk around your neighborhood, eat healthier foods. I'll see you in a month. Not surprisingly, in a month, their blood pressure is the same or worse, right? Yeah. So we're never given any reasonable tools in medical school. And before I went to medical school, I worked as a physician assistant in cardiology. So I've dealt with a lot of people with high blood pressure, even before my residency after medical school. And it's always the same story, right? It's much easier to say, here's an ACE inhibitor, here's a calcium channel blocker, here's a beta blocker, here's a medication. I know that's going to lower your blood pressure. And my really only job as a physician is to fix the thing that I am charged with, which is your blood pressure. I don't have any responsibility for really downstream side effects that might occur from this if they're dealing with your endocrine system or that. Then I'm going to refer you to someone else and say, well, I did the right thing, right, quote unquote. I did what my governing bodies in medicine have told me to do. I checked the box. He got a side effect. That's not my problem.
Yeah, and do you think that should one expect side effects from having high blood pressure, only taking pills? It seems like maybe that might be a reason why you're having other illnesses and disease pop up, but actually we don't talk about that. It's like, well, if I manage the symptom, then like whatever else happens is totally unrelated to said issue.
No, it's physiologic whack-a-mole, right? You can't, like if you have an imbalance in the human body, and this sounds woo-woo, but it's really not. Like if you have an imbalance in the human body, you simply cannot whack this mole without 3 more popping up. It's very difficult to give someone a medication for any condition and not have something else happen because of it. You give someone a proton pump inhibitor because they have gastroesophageal reflux, right? Well, then you have an increased rate of pneumonia because of side effects. Then you have malabsorption of multiple nutrients, including B12 and other things that are dependent on the acidity of your stomach. So you have all of these downstream side effects because the problem really wasn't that they had a deficiency of a proton pump inhibitor. This isn't a pharmaceutical medication deficiency. This is an imbalance. It's a signal to us as physicians or as patients, quote unquote, that there's an imbalance in your body. In the case of gastroesophageal reflux, it usually has to do with dysbiosis in the gut at some level, whether it's the small intestine or some part of this that's leading to a reflux and dysfunction of the esophageal sphincter. If you can get at the root of that and correct that with dietary change, lifestyle change, you probably don't need a proton pump inhibitor. And it's just the story being played out over and over and over in Western medicine. It's so sad, and it really forsakes so many people.
Yeah, it's really sad. And I think what's interesting about what you do is that, you'll look at these randomized controlled studies and say, let me show you not only why this isn't true, but how to look at studies. And so like you had one where you were looking at seed oils in humans. Maybe it was the same guy, but you were saying, here's all the reasons why this study that everything is referencing, turtles all the way down to this study, is actually problematic. And I think that would be interesting for people to hear. Like, how do you determine, no, my doctor says this study, and why is it that doctors don't take the next step, which is go, hey, this study isn't actually well executed?
It's a lot of time. As physicians, we can talk about that with seed oils because that's a really important point. But as physicians, most of us work in an insurance model, which doesn't pay us for outcomes, it pays us for time. And so if we are not seeing 4 to 5 to 6 patients an hour, it's very difficult to even pay your malpractice insurance or make a profit and support so there's a real financial constraint on physicians very quickly. That in medical school, the specialties that pay more are more prestigious and they're more competitive. If you want to be a dermatologist, if you want to be an orthopedic surgeon, if you want to be a plastic surgeon, those are the people who do the best in medical school because they make the most money, right? The people that make the least money in medicine, those are the least competitive specialties. So medicine is completely based on a financial model, and the motivations in medical school are to do as good as I can so I can make as much money. And look, everyone that goes to medical school is super smart and worked really hard to get there. But there's, even within medical school, there is a ranking of specialties. And so I have tons and tons of respect for people that work in internal medicine and family practice, but those specialties don't pay a ton of money, and they're doing really good work that people need to receive. And it's very difficult for a doctor to look at the methods and the history of any study that they're basing their decisions on. It's so much easier as a physician to just say, this is what I learned in medical school. This is what everyone else does. I am protected from malpractice liability if I do this thing, which is what are the guidelines. I'm going to do that thing. So in the case of this seed oil study, or multiple of the randomized controlled trials looking at seed oils, these are nutrition studies essentially, and there are some single-blind, some double-blind randomized controlled trials done with seed oils. Most of them were done, in fact, all of them were done really between the late 1950s and the early 1970s. So they're all 50 to 70 years old. We haven't had a randomized controlled trial with seed oils in 50 to 70 years. No one has done these studies. So we are looking at methods, we are looking at nutritional knowledge that is 50 to 70 years old when these studies were designed.
Why?
Because there's no funding. What pharmaceutical company stands to benefit from doing a trial comparing saturated fats and soybean oil today? None.
Wow.
So much of what we see in the medical literature, so much of what we're taught in medical school is pharma-funded research. That's all that's done today. That's the majority, right? It's not all, but it's the vast majority. And there's a zeitgeist. There is an accepted sort of network saying, you can't even ask this question now. With what your grant, your proposal will just be laughed at. Everyone knows, Cody, quote unquote, that saturated fat is bad for humans. You can't even propose a study that's using saturated fat in one of the arms of the study today without getting a lot of pushback. Maybe you could get it through an IRB, but there's become so much groupthink. And I think that's going to change with this administration and maybe overhaul at the level of the NIH. But there are certainly questions that have been omerta, that have been unable to be asked in the last 15 to 20 years of research. It's very hard to do any research today that questions the lipid hypothesis, which is again something we can talk about regarding LDL cholesterol and direct connections of heart disease. That idea is so entrenched that if you propose a study to question that, it's going to be pretty hard to get this approved. So if you wanted to do a randomized controlled trial with seed oils in humans, that's not observational. You're looking at 5 to 7 years with 300 to 500 patients, maybe to start. 1,000 would be better. You're looking at $20 to $50 million to fund that study. Who's going to push that bill? Like
Nobody.
no, like the butter association isn't, and if the butter, there's no butter association, right? But like if the National Tallow Association
Nope.
funds it, there's going to be so many cries it's corrupt, right? So, agriculture can't fund it. A seed oil company wouldn't. Why would they fund it, right? Why would Kraft or Procter and Gamble or Bunge, which is a company that makes seed oils, why would they fund that study if it could potentially make seed oils look bad? And a study like that, if it were done, that would erode the foundation of so many of the foods that we are given in the grocery store so profoundly that it would probably cause a collapse of our food system for a short amount of time. If RFK Jr. is able to actually get meaningful legislation or meaningful scientific decision making done on seed oils, think about how many foods in the grocery store are going to have to be labeled differently. That is a multi-billion-dollar, potentially hundreds of billions of dollars are on the line here. There's a lot on the line with this, with seed oils. So there's a lot to be protected there in terms of the conceptualization by the public that Doritos, as long as I don't eat too many, maybe it's not the biggest problem. When the flip side of that coin is, look, we live in a free society. You can do what you want. You're sovereign, but that's freaking poison. And if you like eating Doritos, like you need to understand that's poisonous for you. We're allowed to do things that are poisonous for us. We're allowed to drink alcohol. We're allowed to do a lot of things that are poisonous, to take risks, to smoke cigarettes. But hopefully we can get some real honest conversation and maybe even some studies that need to be done to help people understand that like that is poison. Do what you want, but don't give it to your kids thinking that it's okay. So it's a really tricky, it's like a Gordian knot. It's really difficult to untie all of this.
Yeah. Well, and what's crazy, I think, is like, for instance, and we'll blur this out because this is a buddy's company and we like the buddy, but I had no idea until I saw another video that you did about aluminum cans. I was like, I'm doing so good. I don't drink plastic. Of course I don't, because that would be bad. And people say microplastics are not good. So I have my nice little aluminum can. But talk to me about what is inside here, because it turns out maybe this isn't such a good idea.
It's not ideal, right? So you're still drinking out of a plastic bottle, drinking out of an aluminum can. There's really clear videos that have been done where they take acid, a sulfuric acid, and you can dissolve the aluminum. And what you end up with is a plastic bag. It looks like a condom.
Yeah, you can kind of twist the plastic inside of it.
You can twist the plastic or you can completely dissolve it. There's a plastic bag in your aluminum can, invariably. You cannot put any liquid in an aluminum can like that because the aluminum will leach into the fluid. And we know that you probably shouldn't be drinking aluminum.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be wrapping your food in aluminum foil for the same reason. We don't want the aluminum touching food. There's potentially problems with excess aluminum in our diet. So what do, right? Everything has to be in glass. It's not really tenable in terms of weight and economies of scale, but I just think it's important for people to understand that like knowledge is power, know better, do better. And for those people that are suffering, which is really, this is the ethos of all of the content that I make now, and it's been an evolution, is like, look, if you're thriving, don't change anything.
Yep.
But if you're not, I want people to know that there are a lot of these inputs that they're doing in their life that could be potentially contributing in a cumulative manner. I did a video recently about these printer receipts at grocery stores.
People were mad.
People got super triggered. But look, there's solid evidence that touching these receipts can lead to absorption of endocrine disrupting chemicals through your skin. So, like, don't hate me. Like, this is thermal paper. This is a big deal. I mean, Shanna Swan's been on Huberman's podcast talking about this. This is not pseudoscience. Now, is one receipt going to kill you? No, and I said that in the video, but people just get so triggered because they can't wrap their head around the number of things that are toxic in our environment. And I get it. We live in a pretty scary place. And so it's not about being perfect. It's just about doing better. And what I'm about is kind of hope for people. I've met so many people over the years in medical school, in my training, working as a PA, working as a physician, who end up at a place of despair because they're sick and no doctor they see gives them any idea that there's a way out. All you can do is take this medication, which we know has side effects. So that's incredible to me. If you don't have a way out, what are you supposed to do? You might as well you're going to live the rest of your life with a lower quality of life than you could possibly have. That's wild. That's horrible. But I want people to know that there are so many ways out that they may not have heard about. That's what I just want to put it out there. Tools for people when you're ready. If you're doing great, drink out of cans. Who cares?
Yep.
Touch your receipts. Okay, fine. But if you have hormonal dysfunction, infertility, low libido, obesity, depression, like some of these inputs, they matter in a cumulative way. And being intentional with little steps can make a big difference over time.
So true. I mean, for instance, I I have a lot of girlfriends now. I'm a little bit older who are struggling with infertility. And, it always bothered me that the story about reproductive rights was always one-sided. It was like reproductive rights are, abortion rights. And I think you should believe whatever you want to believe about that.
Right.
But I want the other side of the coin too. Reproductive rights are also, why is it harder for women to get pregnant seemingly? And why is nobody talking about that? So maybe along that same vein, I hear Paul Saladino will not date a woman who wears lotion, perfume, or Lululemon. Is this true?
It's pretty true.
It's pretty true.
Or if she's amazing, I'm going to try and convince her not to do those things.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So what's the deal with lotion, perfume, Lululemon, and women?
So let's do lotion and perfume first.
Okay.
These are cosmetics, but all cosmetics, anything that we're putting on our skin, whether we're a man or a woman, is being absorbed. Mm-hmm. Skin is, and it's not a lipid, impermeable barrier. It's not a water impermeable barrier. A lot of things you put on your skin can be absorbed. We know this, and this is the problem. That we are porous, right? We have pores. This is how we sweat, and pheromones come out, and we regulate fluids in our body. We are full of holes. We just can't see them. So anything you put on your skin is going into your body and being absorbed into the cells at your dermis and epidermis. So there have been interesting studies looking at women specifically in the study and cosmetics and personal care products, whether it's deodorant or lotions, and women who make a change and remove the personal care products that have parabens and phthalates and other endocrine disruptors. A lot of the stuff around forever chemicals is not noted on labels, so it's subtle. But women who make an intentional change to remove those things, we see noticeable, marked, statistically significant decreases in levels of these compounds in their body within a few days.
Wow.
And we're talking like the levels can go down by 50%. So there's a massive input. And these are not things that occur naturally in our bodies, right? These are BPS, BPA, parabens, phthalates, which have many iterations and incarnations.
And why are those bad? Why don't we want them in us?
Because they look like our hormones, right? They're imposters. And so a lot of them mimic estrogen specifically. So they can mimic estrogen at the receptor and block its action. They can stimulate excess estrogen action. They're disrupting our hormones. We are delicate, right? And we're resilient, but we're also delicate, right? Yeah. So humans have never been in contact with these chemicals. There are things in, quote, nature that affect us in certain ways, but these are just new things for us. Maybe in another 1,000,000 years, I don't know if Homo sapiens will last that long, or 300,000 years, our bodies will adapt to these compounds, but they're not very adapted now. These compounds have only been in our sphere of existence for the last 50, 30, 20, 10, 5 years.
Yep.
That's way too quickly for our bodies to adjust. Who knows if we ever will. So now they're just this new piece of information that our bodies are unaware of. And it really can cause problems for humans in terms of, like you said, fertility, all sorts of hormonal things in women and men.
Yeah. What's interesting too is, have you seen the new trend with young girls where young girls are starting to put on cosmetics and skincare products younger than ever?
Wow.
And so if you look at actually the growth in the cosmetic industry in female cosmetic products, the #1 growth is sub 16 years old. So we are having we are having salicylic acid and night and eye cream for 12 and 11-year-old girls. Wow. Who do not need it, by the way, whatsoever, of course.
Right.
And so fast, with such high margins, that they also are creating these little, they're like refrigerators for little girls. And I swear to God, you can look it up and see if there's a video here for you. But there's these little refrigerators that they put on top of the girls' countertops that you put all of your face products in. Okay. And this is a new trend for them. And there's starting to be these side effects for young women where, not young women, young girls, where salicylic acid on like a face that doesn't have, you're not really getting acne when you're 8, 9, 10, 11. And so, it's interesting to see. I can't even imagine what's going to happen to the next generation because I didn't start all that until I was in my 20s, probably.
Wow.
It's
scary.
Yeah, I think so too.
And you look at young girls hitting puberty earlier and earlier. There are all of these compounds in our environment that are affecting us negatively. You also asked about Lululemon.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I just saw an article a couple of weeks ago about whether it's a sports bra or leggings. When you sweat in these, it increases the absorption of chemicals in these pieces of clothing significantly. Yeah. If you're wearing leggings and they're dry, it doesn't look like we absorb much from it, right? Yeah. Women don't absorb much from the leggings. But women, most of the time, this is athleisure. They're like going to the gym after some,
Or me in the sauna.
Right, you're in the sauna or you're running. So a lot of times, women especially, men don't wear as many of these like tight products on our bodies. We can sometimes. Men in jiu-jitsu wear these rash guards, right, which are kind of the same thing as like a sports bra in some ways, right? It's a polyester piece of clothing that adheres to our body and we get super sweaty in it. So men are not immune from this, but generally we're thinking of women wearing leggings and sports bras, sweating in them. There is like documented research evidence that increases the absorption of endocrine disrupting chemicals, again, BPS, BPA, which is a whole bisphenol series, parabens and phthalates, into the body. And then what does it do? We're just now beginning to understand this.
Wow. Yeah, plus, have you seen women's leggings lately? They are everywhere. They're very tight. I collective, Taylor's gonna laugh. There's these new leggings that you just see. I'm like, I'm a chick and I'm looking. I'm sorry. Like they are up in everything. So what do? You throw your expensive leggings away? You buy only cotton ones? What's the answer here?
I mean, it's just like knowledge is power. Know better, do better. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. If you're thriving, maybe that's not the biggest input, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the biggest lever to pull. If I'm in that situation, I'm thinking, okay, somebody needs to start developing leggings and sports bras in better fabrics. This is a business opportunity for a whole growing segment of men and women. If it's men, if it's rash guards, right? For me, like I'm a surfer. There are 0 companies that make board shorts out of anything but polyester. And believe me, I've tried to surf in cotton shorts. It doesn't work very well. It's horrible, right?
Yeah.
There was a company, Kelly Slater's company, used to make wool board shorts, and they discontinued them. So hopefully, by education, there can be an increased awareness and demand for these products in the market, and it's a new space. I've seen women starting to wear leggings that are cotton, or look, if it's 5% spandex but mostly cotton, that's way better than 100% polyester.
Yeah.
Way better.
Yeah.
Also, underwears for women. What is your underwear made out of?
I did the whole organic cotton switch.
It's probably important.
Yeah.
Like these tissues that are covered by sports bras and underwear are very absorptive. They're mucosal tissues. So it's a big deal.
Okay, really important comment. The thing is, I haven't met that many super hippie women that age super well. It's like there's a lot of wrinkles. Oh, maybe that's why.
It's because they're all vegetarians.
My husband's really funny. He'll be like, you don't need Botox. I'm like, you never see me without it. Like, you have no idea. You don't know what I look like if I never get Botox because I've had it before. Don't tell me it's bad for me. I don't even want to know.
We can talk about it. It's a separate conversation.
Okay, fine. But what do you think about this, aesthetic we have today, at least for women? It looks a certain way, and it's really hard to get products that are healthy on your face.
So again, this is just my perspective as a man.
You're not doing Botox.
I don't do Botox. I've never done Botox. I've never really done anything cosmetic for my face, and people will be like, "Yeah, that's because your face. That's why you look old." Whatever.
You look old. You look great. Internet's rude.
Thank you. Whatever. People will use that as an opportunity, I'm sure, to hate. But I don't want to put chemicals on my face. I refuse to do it. And in terms of the Botox, I'll just say this: as a man, I have trouble dating women whose foreheads don't move.
Look at this.
Because
I'm perplexed. I'm upset. I can't lift an eyebrow. Is it working?
I mean,
you want to see it. You want to see the wrinkles.
There are 200 plus. People can fact check me on this. Maybe I'm off a little bit. There are many, many muscles in the human face, and I think that we've evolved this very delicate communication between men and women, but also between women and their children and men and their children, whereby our expressions, this is so much communication in the way that I move my face beyond the intonation of my words.
That's true.
So I can be on a date with a woman and think there's nothing coming back at me, right? I have no idea what's going on here. How are we going to form a partnership? And I actually have concerns, and there is a hypothesis that women with too much Botox could potentially impair pair bonding with their children. Oof. Because the infant is not seeing the woman's face move. You remember during COVID when everyone was wearing the masks and so many kids were sort of delayed in terms of their social skills? Botox is kind of the same thing, but with the top half of the face, or with the forehead and with around the eyes.
Yeah, I don't do the eyes, but now they have these new silicone strips. This is really, I'm sure, important to you that that you can put on here instead. That's supposed to help with the lines. But yeah, you can be pretty vain watching yourself on TV all the time as a woman. Also, I think we did a series that opened up my eyes. I mean, if you think about my generation, I'm 38, and we went through. let's see, what did we go through? We went through heroin chic, remember that? Like Kate Moss, so like as skinny as humanly possible.
I didn't know what it's called. Okay.
Now you do.
Uh-huh.
Add that to your repertoire. You tell me about crazy like multi-syllable words in medicine. I'll teach you about heroin chic.
Okay, heroin chic. Let's go.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
So we got heroin chic back in the day. That was where we were told to be as skinny as humanly possible. That's sexy, right? And then we went from that to actually expanded bodies. So like the big, Kim Kardashian butts, the puffer fit lish, the silicone, chest. Then we've most recently gone to, releasing all of those. So now we want to release the fillers. We want to have a more natural look. And so in my lifespan, which is like 20 years of being cognizant of these things, we've had 3 materially different body types as a woman. And so imagine that. These young women these days are thinking that they actually have to change their body composition in order to fit a beauty norm. How scary.
It's so hard. I have a younger sister, so I'm a little bit aware of this because I always felt for her having to go through these beauty norms, and I think that she's navigated it very well and very gracefully. But I think in many ways, I think that it's got to be very, very difficult as a woman to navigate that today, whether it's dating or marriage, and especially a woman who is in the public eye. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a man. I'm a 47-year-old man, and I still get self-conscious about being in the public eye. And I've just kind of released it and been like, look,
same.
This is what I'm about. Like, I'm trying to do the best I can and be authentic about the way I look as a 47-year-old man. I take care of myself, but it's hard, right? Yeah. And I think it comes back even more on women because there are such different, I would say, impossible beauty standards.
Yeah, well, and also there's like financial reasons for why women care about it. Like we have quote unquote pretty privilege, and I should check my validity of my studies, but there's quite a few studies that show that women who wear makeup have a double-digit, we won't get that specific about the numbers, but somewhere between 15 and 30% increase in pay just from wearing makeup versus not, all things else being relatively equal.
That's
and
crazy.
So you can kind of see why you might start paying more attention to the way that you look and dress.
Of course. Well,
which makes a lot of sense.
You have to keep up. It's like, I'm reminded of Lance Armstrong in the Tour de France. If everyone is doing steroids, if everyone is doing EPO, erythropoietin, if everyone is doing drugs in your sport, you have to do that to even be seen as like competitive. And so in the marketplace, or it's a hard thing for women because if men on the other end, and I always wonder how much of these beauty standards are women doing it for other women versus women.
Probably the most.
Versus women doing it for men. But if men are seeing this, our perspective on this is being warped, or other women, who want to date women, right? So like whatever prospective partner you want, their perspective of what someone attractive is being warped again by social media and these crazy norms that are happening. AI is not helping that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Truth. You don't use deodorant, toothpaste, no lotion, no cologne, and you use beef fat as sunscreen.
Mostly truth, yeah. So I don't use deodorant, generally speaking. If I'm going somewhere and have to be super professional and I don't, want to have any scent, I might use apple cider vinegar or rubbing alcohol, but I don't use any traditional.
You just rub it underneath?
Yeah, you just spray it or rub it underneath.
Are you smelly?
I don't think so. But I smell like a human.
You smell like a human.
Yeah. I mean, like,
he smells lovely.
Could I potentially...
Okay, ready?
Let's go.
Coming in. No, you actually smell totally normal. No deodorant.
No deodorant.
And you're sweating.
I'm sweating. I'm sitting
the day?
here. Yeah.
Wow.
I think that a lot of...
Codie approved.
Okay, wow. That was a tense moment there. You're like,
could have gone sideways.
And I don't use toothpaste. Again, this is one of the things that I get a lot of flack for.
No toothpaste.
Toothpaste is just silly. Like, look, first of all, I'm not a fan of fluoride. And there's a lot of fluoride in toothpaste. And there's a lot of fluoride in drinking water, et cetera, et cetera. So please filter your water with a filter that actually gets fluoride out. You don't need fluoride in your toothpaste. When I was a kid, I had these fluoride trays that they used to put in my mouth at the dentist. I shudder to think about this. Anyway, you don't need fluoride in your toothpaste. And there are natural toothpastes that don't use fluoride, but then they have things like SDS, sodium dodecyl sulfate, or diatomaceous earth, things that could even be, SDS could be disruptive to the gut flora. Sometimes diatomaceous earth or other ingredients are too abrasive for the enamel of our teeth.
Isn't that like what murders little insects
that
you put in plants and stuff?
Yeah. And maybe diatomaceous earth isn't in toothpaste anymore, but sometimes they use things that are abrasive. People used to brush their teeth with baking soda.
Yeah.
This is not a good idea, right? It's way too abrasive for the enamel. So our mouth is like a reflection of our gut flora, right? And if you have bad breath, it's not that you're not brushing your teeth with toothpaste, it's that you have dysbiosis in your gut, right? So it all comes back to quality of food. I remember this time when I was in PA school, so my late 20s, I was going out on a date with a woman, and I used to love Listerine. I was like, this is the greatest stuff ever. It just, and I left the house, and my dad was like, he just said, what? I can smell it, it's too much. And I was like, no, it's good, it's good. I used to just crush the mouthwash, but now we know that mouthwash, it kills all of the flora in your mouth, which are essential for the production of nitric oxide. There are studies in people who are working out in the gym that when they use mouthwash, it actually attenuates how much muscle they can gain. It affects the quality and the improvement in your physiology when you do workouts by using mouthwash. So you don't want to carpet bomb your microbiome in your mouth, in your gut. We need these bacteria, and we cannot sterilize ourselves. We cannot. Look, if you go to the bathroom, wash your hands, fine. But understand that there are endocrine disruptors, potentially microbiota disrupting chemicals in many of the soaps we use. And so I don't see the point to using soap on my skin. I'm not literally swimming in mud all day. I'm okay, you know?
So no washing hands with soap after going to the bathroom?
Well, what's in the soap, right?
Yeah.
Is it fragrance? Is it paraben? Is it phthalate? Is it triclosan, which is, I think, pretty problematic for the human gut microbiota? Okay. So if you want to use like a natural soap after you go to the bathroom, okay, but know what's in it, right? And so many of these fragrances and parabens and phthalates are problematic.
So just water?
Water most of the time, yeah. And
what about like tallow body soap?
Tallow body soap would be much better.
Better. Okay.
Much better, yeah. And again, like, I think that as humans, we are worried about what other people will think. We don't want to smell. We don't want to smell a certain way. We don't want our breath to be bad. And so much of this comes back to the quality of just the way we live our lives, right? What is the quality of the food you're eating? That's when you get bad breath if you're not eating that well. So that's the issue here. And I think that there are ways to make healthier toothpaste, but again, it's kind of based on this fear around, if I don't brush my teeth, my breath will be bad. And that's not really what happens. Like, humans have a natural smell, which probably is attractive to people.
That makes sense.
The other question is, do you want to, we probably cannot cover our pheromones, but we probably don't want to cover our pheromones for our partners, for potential partners, more than like at all. Like, we want people to smell us as humans. That's a connection that we have with other people. And this is all completely against a societal norm, and so it's very controversial, but I want people I'm on a date with to be able to smell my pheromones as a human. We can talk about birth control too. There's so many
I've now smelled your pheromones.
What's that?
So I said now I've smelled your pheromones.
You smell my pheromones.
We're on the same page. Okay.
You can, and you know, like, if you're on a date with someone or you're dating someone, you want to know if there is genetic compatibility there.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
And that is affected by our pheromones and these signals. And though there hasn't been much research into human pheromones, the evidence is so overwhelming that they're there, just anecdotally or observationally. Humans have pheromones. All other mammals produce pheromones. Why would humans not produce pheromones? Have you seen the studies on birth control? This is relevant. So women who take birth control select different partners when they're presented with sweaty t-shirts. So they've actually, speaking of who funds these studies, like, look, maybe there's hope for seed oil studies, because somebody funded a study where women on birth control were given sweaty t-shirts from men, and they knew sort of the immunologic signature of the men in the t-shirts. And women on the birth control selected different mates in terms of compatibility with their genetics than women off birth control. So what happens is that women on birth control select men who have more similar genetics. Women off birth control select men with different genetics, mostly at this MHC antigen locus in the immune system. In nature, mates are generally chosen based on genetic diversity. You want someone with different genetics than you, so you have the most robust offspring in terms of mate pairing, right? And you can see in populations that have a lot of inbreeding that people generally have more diseases and become less robust quickly. This happens in a lot of populations. You get these rare diseases that are amplified that shouldn't happen. We want diversity in terms of human mating and combinations of genetics. And so women on birth control are kind of choosing the wrong partners.
It's so scary.
And it begs the question of women on birth control choosing a partner, getting off birth control, getting pregnant, and then how many relationships does that end or cause problems with when you're actually not that compatible with your partner now? and you've had a child with them or you're pregnant with them.
That's
So
wild.
in terms of choosing a partner, pretty important to know these things and sample these things. There's another study that I'll mention which is really wild on the same topic. They looked at strippers. And there are strippers on birth control and strippers off birth control. And when the strippers off birth control are performing, they earn the most tips right around their ovulation. They have a huge peak in the month when they ovulate. And the rest of the month is like less tips, right? The women on birth control earned the same amount of tips all month and it was much lower. So if there are any strippers listening to the podcast
Big audience.
and you want to make more money, you got to get off birth control. But clearly men know, right? And men are paying women more when they're ovulating. There's something going on here. They're communicating. And being on birth control abolishes that. So like making mate pairing more difficult, birth control, pheromones, smelling, that's how we got on this topic, from like soaps and perfumes and all these things.
Fascinating. So let's say that you buy into it and you're like, okay, I want to decrease a bunch of these endocrine disrupting extra things that we do. What do you do so that you can still sort of manage through society? Is it tallow soap? Is it shaving your armpits if you're a man? Is it eating certain types of food? How do we not be smelly and also be healthier?
So again, the option, it's pretty simple, right? There's like rubbing alcohol, apple cider vinegar. There are more natural deodorants now that have no parabens and phthalates. There are more natural toothpaste. If you absolutely want the minty fresh feel in your mouth, which whatever, you do you know, like there's options. And I think that it's avoiding the lesser options, avoiding the ones that are going to be problematic in a cumulative fashion, because there's a lot of things that we're putting on our body and in our mouths that are not even food. We haven't even talked about food yet, right? So yeah, there's so many better options today. Again, there's probably a niche for food or for clothing companies to make better quality clothing, but you don't have to be completely, living in the jungle in Costa Rica like me.
Well, you told me about, what is it? Is it seed oil tracker or seed oil scout?
Seed oil scout.
Seed oil scout, which is cool. So you can go to restaurants and try to find restaurants that don't use seed oils.
Yes, the guy that did that app is coming to the film premiere tonight.
Amazing.
Yep. So Heart and Soil is doing a premiere of a mini documentary that I did with them. It's called Fed a Lie, and it's about seed oils. And that's tonight, and he's coming to that. So you can meet him. Yeah, it's awesome. So when you go to restaurants, again, it's the overarching framework that I keep coming back to is that convenience is the enemy of health. If we just do what everyone else does, we get what everyone else gets. And most of the people in our sphere, unfortunately, are going to have health issues or chronic disease or infertility issues. And if we want to live a life that is different than that, we have to be intentional and swim upstream. And that means inconveniences, whether it's inconvenience of cooking your food ahead of time or the inconvenience of going to a restaurant and being that guy or that girl that asks the waiter, what is this cooked in? Or looking at the menu beforehand and thinking, do they have something that is unlikely to be cooked in seed oils? Sauces, these things are almost invariably full of vegetable oils, seed oils.
Yeah, I mean, because of you, actually, I listened to a podcast you did with somebody else, and you laid out this framework, and then I thought, well, this will be fun. I just want to go for a week and ask all of the different restaurants that I go to, nice restaurants, expensive restaurants, what sort of oil they cook in, and it just said, I have some allergies, which is true. I have allergies to some things. It doesn't happen to be those, but then I feel like they might have to tell me. And I can only find 2 restaurants here that only use olive oil.
Daidue?
Daidue and The Well.
Really?
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about seed oils earlier. I think seed oils are problematic for humans when they're sitting on the shelf. What happens to a seed oil when you heat it? So now you're heating it again. It becomes even more highly rancid and oxidized and processed when you heat it. So one of the worst things is French fries, right? That is a fryer. You're boiling the oil for days at a time. I went to a KFC and an In-N-Out recently to do content, and I asked them, how often do you change the fryer oil, which is peanut and soybean oil? They say once a week. Once a week? You have a seed oil to start with, which is highly rancid and oxidized, and then you're boiling it for 12 to 16 hours a day, and you're changing it once a week? Are you kidding me? So
we're going to have to save the new administration, because did you see the new picture of them with RFK held hostage on the plane with McDonald's?
I was so disappointed.
I mean, they're the ultimate trolls. It's like the best entertainment of all time.
Do you think they were trolling?
I think RFK probably was like, yeah, what are we going to do? But I think that they are brilliant at it. But I thought it was interesting because I looked at one of your other posts about the number of ingredients that just McDonald's pickles have in them. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it's like, what is it, like 19?
Yeah, it was
19 in French fries. I think pickles had 5 to 7 ingredients.
Yeah, I think it was 10.
Yeah.
Which is like, how is that even possible with the pickle? You would think a pickle was just vinegar and salt and a pickle, right?
And a cucumber.
Yeah, or right.
Right.
Is that how they make those? Right, a cucumber.
So I'm super excited for RFK Jr. Super disappointed he was in the photo with the McDonald's, but super excited for his overhaul of the FDA, so the Food and Drug Administration.
Yeah.
This has to do with this generally recognized as self or the GRAS designation on foods. I think in the United States, we don't even know how many chemicals are in our food supply now. People estimate 5 to 10,000 chemicals that are part of this GRAS system. So these are chemicals that are supposed to have been tested for humans' safety and are generally not, because there is a process of grandfathering these chemicals in over the last 20 to 30 years where companies can just say, oh yeah, we tested it, we're just going to say it's safe. And the FDA is allowing this to happen. And one of the really interesting juxtapositions that's been highlighted recently by a number of awesome people in the health space is the difference in European foods versus American foods. In Europe, there are maybe 400 to 500 of these chemicals. In the United States, there are 5 to 10,000. We don't even know how many there are. And these have all come in maybe the last 15 to 20 years. So how many chemicals are in our food supply that are problematic for us long term that we don't even know about? And these are not vitamins and minerals. These are additives. Sodium pyrophosphate, sodium benzoate, preservatives, TBHQ. Who knows? Like dimethylpolysiloxane, which is an ingredient in silly putty, which is in McDonald's French fries. Right? Like these are dyes, red 40, yellow 6, yellow 5, blue 5, right? We don't know what these do to humans long term. There have been some studies, but it's wild to think about. I think this is a huge part of the problem for humans, is that when you eat an ultra processed food, whether it's Flamin' Hot Cheetos or Takis or this other Franken foods that I see at the grocery store, there are tons of these things in there, and they're accepted as safe. Kellogg's is saying that Red 40 is safe. I mean, a bunch of people marched to Kellogg's headquarters in Battle Creek, Michigan, and Kellogg's didn't even let them in the door. Kellogg's said, no, the FDA says our food is safe. When there are multiple studies in kids showing that these food dyes can potentially be linked to either allergic conditions or behavioral problems. And the same could be true of so many ingredients that we're not even thinking about in your ultra-processed food of choice. We don't know what these things do to us as humans.
Well, and also I think humans are incredible at self-rationalization. So like those people that are in Kellogg's and in Pfizer, they're not evil demons trying to take over the world, most likely, but could be. But I think most people were great self-rationalizers. And so if we explain that, hey, urban populations have food deserts, hey, this is a core constituency for most people who are of sub-economic level, thus without us, they can't actually eat, then we will explain our way into really bad practices as humans. And I think that's what we have to watch out for.
I mean, have you heard Callie Means talk about this when he worked at Coca-Cola and these other businesses, that if there was any suggestion of regulation, that they would use a race card or a financial hardship card, and they would not allow the regulation. Like it is that's racist to say that these junk foods, which are more affordable, are unhealthy. How are lower income populations going to be able to afford their food?
Yeah.
There is so much sort of maneuvering on the back end to protect these ultra processed foods, which have huge margins and are easy to make, and continue to support their availability for us as Americans. And look, it's a Pandora's box. They're already created. I think humans should have the ability to choose to eat those foods. I just think we need honest, candid conversations about what these things can be doing to us as humans. A cigarette package has a warning label on it. And in other parts of the world, the warning labels are much more graphic than they are in the United States. I've seen cigarettes in New Zealand and other places when I've traveled, and they have pictures of people with with like trach tubes who can't breathe, or on ventilators. They have pictures of people on dialysis or with plastic surgery need in their face because they've had so much cancer in their nose and mouth from chewing tobacco. In the United States, we have a little warning in words. They don't have any pictures. But why don't we have warning labels on Lay's potato chips and Doritos? And there's no question at this point that those foods are harming humans.
Yeah.
In many ways, and in kind with cigarettes. Like every time I make any sort of comparison to cigarettes, the nutrition mob comes after me and says, Paul Saladino is claiming that Doritos are worse than cigarettes. Like, this is crazy, right? It's like, get over yourself, guys. I'm not saying that, but Doritos are not health food. And cigarettes are an interesting juxtaposition. Cigarettes have a warning label. Why don't Doritos?
Yeah, I agree. Well, and the other thing that's interesting is, like, my father is a perfect example. It's hard for other generations to get on board with this. I'll talk to him often about, like, hey, let's, I saw your post on shredded cheese, American cheese, and trying to explain this to a different generation is very hard. So I think that the work's really important because we need to push back with some graphic illustrations, like that canola oil video of the sludge getting made. You're like, I don't know much, not healthy. I can just tell, not a good idea. That's it.
We have an intuition.
Right. Yeah, which is true. But as we kill our microbiome, the intuition becomes harder. So I think it's very, very true.
Yeah, and this is mirroring the conversation around beauty standards in humans. As the conversation gets diluted and confused, which I think is the main tactic that a lot of these manufacturers are trying to do, what is healthy and unhealthy becomes more blurred, and unhealthy food becomes more normalized. And we lose our intuition. A blue potato chip, right? Unless it's blue corn, which, corn is a separate conversation, but like a blue potato chip with food dyes, this is probably, I think our grandparents will be able to look at that and think that's a frankenfood. We're only a few generations removed from that level of intuition, but at a very simple level when it comes to food, if your grandmother didn't recognize this food, why are you eating it?
That's such a good point.
You just don't need to eat it. And if your grandmother's mother didn't, like that, a few generations back, we were so much better, even without any conversations around more nuanced of like meat versus plants, like just what are the foods that were in our food supply 100 years ago? They're not like what we eat today.
Let's talk really quick about what you eat, because you have a unique method for eating that includes like a more limited food supply. Will you talk about the foods you will put in your body?
Yeah. So I have a history of autoimmune illness. I had pretty bad eczema and asthma as a kid. Both of my parents are in the medical system. My dad is a doctor, my mom is a nurse practitioner, so I got over-medicated as a kid. They did the best they could. They didn't know. My dad wasn't trained either when he went to medical school at Georgetown University about foods.
So you think that you got those because of over-medication when you were younger?
No, I just know that I had those for whatever reason, a genetic predisposition in the setting, in the context of eating standard American diet, manifests those things, and I was over-medicated as a kid.
Yeah,
so I grew up with a lot of medications. That didn't affect me positively either. Giving your kid lots of antibiotics can affect their gut flora, right? Giving your kid lots of stimulants to treat their asthma, because we used to give children theophylline called Theodor. I got this in my applesauce when I was a kid. That makes kids anxious and hyperactive. So that doesn't help with elementary school performance or learning. So these things negatively affected my life, and it was this sort of domino effect. So at some point in my life, generally when I was out of college, I began to think about my food and started thinking about what I was doing with my food that was giving me this autoimmune condition, this series of autoimmune conditions. Really, it's a triad. It's called an atopic condition, right? It's basically eczema, asthma, and allergies. And it got to the point that it was bothersome to me. And I had numerous flares of my eczema that were very severe, requiring more systemic steroids, which are not great for anything. And at times in medical school, the eczema would get infected and I would get impetigo. So like from being on the mats for jiu-jitsu, so really impairing my quality of life, spurred me to think more specifically and intentionally about the foods that I was eating. Now, that has been a personal journey that I've written about and talked about on my social media. It began originally with a vegan diet many years ago, a raw vegan diet, which didn't do much for my autoimmune conditions, but I did lose 20 plus pounds of lean muscle to the point that I got super, super skinny. I'm about 165 pounds now. I was less than 145 at that time. And that was not intentional. I was eating as much as I possibly could, but without animal protein, the muscle goes away. In my case, and in many others as well. So that was a raw vegan diet. Then I sort of did paleo, and a paleo diet of meat and vegetables and nuts and seeds. Didn't fix the eczema. And I got to the point where I was thinking, in my residency at the University of Washington after medical school, I have really bad eczema right now, and I'm eating 85 to 90% organic foods that are colloquially considered to be healthy. No processed food, what is going on? There's something in my diet that is still triggering my immune system. That was when I did a carnivore diet, so strictly meat. And that was interesting because it fixes the eczema. Then fast forward a year and a half later, I end up with some issues regarding electrolyte balance due to long-term ketogenic diet. And so I started to add foods back in, which is the ultimate goal, I think, for a lot of people if they do elimination diets like a carnivore diet. And first I added in honey, then I added in fruit, and I found a pretty interesting middle ground, kind of carnivore 2.0, which I've called animal-based just as a framework for people in hopes that it's healthy. I don't think everyone needs to eat this way, but I think it's a good starting point for people. And so an animal-based diet is basically meat and fruit. But a lot of foods we think of as fruit, a lot of foods we think of as vegetables are actually fruit, things like avocado or cucumber or squash. So the reason I make the distinction between fruit and vegetables is that one of the interesting things about thinking about food that we eat from a carnivore lens was that there actually are defense chemicals in vegetables. And some of these can be detoxified when we cook them or when we ferment them, but not all of them. And a lot of people with autoimmune conditions do feel better when they eliminate some or all vegetables. Not everyone needs to. Again, if you're thriving, don't change anything about your diet. But I like this idea of putting tools into the world for people that they can access if and when they need them. So for me, I know from adding foods back that a lot of the vegetables actually do trigger my eczema, whether it's chocolate, tomatoes, which is technically a fruit, but it's a nightshade fruit. That whole family seems to trigger my eczema. White potatoes don't really agree with me. So some foods that we think of as healthy are problematic. Spinach is a good model to illustrate this because we think of that as like Popeye and it's this super healthy food. It's green, but spinach has a lot of a compound called oxalates or oxalic acid. Oxalates are a major component of the main kidney stone that humans get. 75 to 80% of kidney stones are calcium oxalate kidney stones, and dietary oxalate can be a major contributor to that. Probably the biggest contributor to our oxalate levels in our body. Oxalates are naturally produced in our body in small amounts from breakdown of certain amino acids, but spinach and other foods, almonds, navy beans, rhubarb, turmeric powder are some of the big ones. These are huge sources of oxalates. So if you have kidney stones or you have a family history of kidney stones and you don't want kidney stones, it might be well to avoid those things. We know that there are poisonous plants in the environment. I mean, I grew up in the Northeast, and at Christmas we would have these poinsettia plants. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
Super toxic, right? So kids, like little kids, should not eat the red leaves of the poinsettia. So not all plants are benign for us, and there is this spectrum of plant toxins. So that's an interesting distinction for me to think about. Again, you can detoxify some of these plant defense chemicals with cooking or fermentation, but not all of them.
The problem is that you have so much good content and so many things that I want to talk about because, I think a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, we're interested in money. We're interested in building businesses. We're interested in maybe ethics and morals and what it means to be an American. But man, you can't really have a strong bank account without a strong body. Or if you do, what does it really matter?
What's the point?
Yeah, what's the point? And so I think this is really interesting for anybody who wants to live a better life. I mean, also just if you want to have better brain function and cognition,
that's what I was going to say.
You got to be healthy.
It's going to pay dividends, right? Having better mental clarity means everything in your life is amplified. Romantic relationships, family relationships, business, make more money. You want to express your highest potential.
What's interesting is you have an organ food supplement line. What's it called again?
Heart and soil supplements.
Yeah, you have heart and soil supplements. And I actually forgot to tell you this, but my husband, Chris, is a big user of them.
Oh, cool. I brought you guys some.
Oh, he's going to love that. He gets all my gifts, actually. But he actually got me on them because I found that organ meat was really helpful for my face, just like collagen. Like I found for a while I was traveling a lot. I don't eat enough protein typically, and I don't do fillers or anything like that. And I kind of have these like bags under my eyes. And anyway, one of my doctors was like, are you getting enough collagen? And so I started taking some collagen protein. Kind of messed with my stomach. I didn't really like it.
It can.
And then I started eating some organ meat. But this is TMI for the internet. I felt like I smelled different. Is that a thing? Do people who eat a lot of organ meat smell different?
Was it better? What did your husband say? Was it better or
worse?
worse?
Like the smell, but he's a weirdo like you. He's like, I love the smell of you. I'm like, I don't know. It's weird.
Completely possible that you could smell different. Now, the context is there a human that's kind of turned on to this or in the same space and like
They're into it. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a creep. He loves the workouts. Oh, the internet's like, not this. We're gonna have so many weird YouTube comments. But what I will say is that the supplements that you have, I don't have that.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and so that was actually really helpful for me.
Okay.
But talk to me about. I think if the average person would hear, you know what I should do? I should eat more heart and kidneys and organ meat. That sounds gross. Plus, there was a really big, huge guy that did it, and there was a bunch of crazy stuff that came out about him.
I know.
And so, why would I do anything crazy like that? Why would I eat organ meats?
So if you look at meat, so you go to the grocery store, you see ground beef, you might see chicken, you see fish, you see steaks. That's all muscle meat. Muscle meat is super nutritionally rich for humans, very bioavailable protein, but it doesn't really have a full complement of vitamins and minerals. And organ meats, especially liver, if you start with liver, are this beautiful sort of completion of a nutritional profile. If you look at what's in a steak and what's in liver, there are very few vitamins and minerals that are not represented there. Vitamin C, so raw liver and raw steak do actually have vitamin C, but people could argue, rightly so, that you're going to get more vitamin C from orange juice. But other than vitamin C, there's not much in looking at a whole suite of vitamins and minerals that are not present in animal muscle and liver. People would say fiber, that's a separate conversation, so we get it. But if you just look at muscle meat, high in B12, high in zinc, high in iron, not a lot of copper, not a lot of folate, not a lot of biotin. Liver has all that stuff. Liver has copper, which balances zinc. So historically, humans have always eaten the organs. We waste nothing, right? Whether it's for calories or necessity or some sort of historical intrinsic knowledge that these organs are beneficial for fertility and vitality, we waste nothing. I went to Tanzania. I spent time with the Hadza, some of the last hunter-gatherers left on the planet. And when they had the liver of an animal, we hunted a few animals together, they treated it like gold. 2 hands placed gently on a rock, cut into small pieces, distributed evenly among the tribe. This is
raw.
This is a treasure. No, they cooked it.
Okay.
This is a treasure in their world. The treasure. All of the organ meats are a treasure. The hunter who killed the animal gets to eat the brain. And that's something that's queasy for us. But there are pieces of the organs, there are parts of the animal, the organs, that are a reward to hunters. Historically, the heart was gifted to the hunter who killed the animal, some sort of spiritual sort of recompense. So there's a lot of history of humans eating organs, and when you look at the science, it's fascinating around the nutrient profiles. But one of the coolest things for me is that building this company, Heart and Soil, that does these organ capsules for people that I do think make it easier to get organs. They're freeze-dried, which preserves as many of the nutrients as we can in a gelatin capsule, is that the team over there is amazing, and they did some really fascinating research about sort of nutritional benefits of organs that go far beyond the vitamins and minerals. And to do this, we had to go to libraries in Germany, like Heidelberg Library, and find the original volumes, because the historical research has been done since the late 1800s to like the 1950s and 1960s, but most of it has been in Europe, and it's in German originally. So just because it's in German doesn't mean that it's interesting, compelling research, but it does mean that most of us in the Western English-speaking world have never seen it. And so we actually had to find the original volumes and translate the research from German to English. And what you see is there's a lot of evidence that organs do support the corresponding organ in humans, which really breaks the mind of a traditionally trained doctor like myself. So when you give, we can take an embryo, for instance, and you put a little bit of liver on the embryo, and that liver concentrates in the liver of the embryo. You can do this with radioisotope labeling. You can do it with like other types of labeling, and you can see, like not visually, but in terms of measured research analysis, that the organ goes to the corresponding organ. So what is going on there? It's fascinating, and there are many, many stories now. It's anecdote, but this is a summed amount of lived human experience that I think is really important not to ignore, of humans eating organs or eating the desiccated organs like we make, and having benefits in the corresponding organs. We make a supplement at Heart and Soil called Her Package, which has uterus, ovaries, fallopian tubes, kidney, and liver. And so many women who have struggled with infertility or PCOS have found benefits from taking this. Again, this is just anecdote, but it's a fascinating sort of question to be asking. Are these organs beneficial beyond the nutrients in the organs? The dose of the organs is 3 grams a day or less. And there's interesting research that when you look at the organs, it's a fraction of the organ called the microsomal fraction that contains things like microRNA. And the hypothesis now that we come to looking at this historical research, which is fascinating, is that there are probably signals in the organs that are preserved in the freeze-drying process, but potentially denatured when we cook the organs, that can signal and actually affect the genetics or the gene transcription and translation in the corresponding organ. So there's actually information and signals that could support an organ beyond the amount of hormones, because it's minuscule amounts of hormones in 3 grams of desiccated ovaries, right? We have another one for men, which has testicle in it, called whole package. Similar results for men in terms of male vitality. The amount of testosterone in whole package is minuscule. It's in there, we've tested it, but there's not a lot of androgens. And this was an original criticism of the organs, that you would have to eat 500 pounds of testicle to get a biologically active dose of testosterone. Maybe that's slightly off, but even a 3-gram dose appears to be beneficial. And there was actually a guy, there's been some published research in, I think it's 1889, in the Lancet, which is a historically, obviously very long-standing journal. I believe it was Brown-Séquard, who has a neurologic syndrome named after him. He taught at Harvard, elite universities in Paris, who injected himself with a testicle extract and reported that he had increased vitality at 72 years old. So this is fascinating, right? So the guys doing interesting things over 100 years ago. Most of this research on organs has been lost, but we're just helping to revitalize it and get people back into thinking about, like, oh, let me eat the whole animal. And if you can eat some of the animal, some of these organs raw, which obviously has potential risks that people should be aware of, or desiccated, that is freeze-dried, it's pretty interesting what's happening here. I think it's going to be a real sea change when people start to understand, and maybe we get some new contemporary research on this in a lab.
Did you know, for instance, silencer versus raw milk, which is more illegal in more states?
I bet raw milk.
Raw milk. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah, like in Texas, you have to have permit numbers on raw milk here locally in order to get it, and you can't get all different types. But there are more states where raw milk is illegal than silencers, which I thought was interesting. Okay, next one. Homeschooling with no curriculum versus fentanyl.
You said, I
guessing.
That's crazy. Homeschooling.
Isn't that homeschooling with no curriculum, that's an important caveat, versus fentanyl. And
wow.
It turns out that homeschooling is more illegal. How fucking crazy is that?
They want your kids propagandized. They want your kids hypnotized.
Oh my God, it's a real problem. But I want to play some other games with you really quickly. Rapid fire, and this is perfect. We can start with raw milk.
Mm-hmm.
I just did is this a bad idea or not? You can tell me. I just did a raw milk, goat milk cleanse with like herbs.
Okay.
For potential parasites. I did it for like 14 days. 8 days only raw milk. Mm-hmm. First it was awful, I think, because of the herbs. Like, it didn't feel very nice.
Yeah.
It's not enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm like marginally lactose intolerant.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really fun for everybody. But afterwards, but it's placebo. Maybe I feel better. Was that a bad idea or no?
You know, I don't know anything about the
raw milk cleanses.
Yeah, raw milk cleanses. I think raw milk is amazing.
Do you drink it?
I drink it all the time. I drank it before I came over here. I've got raw milk in my backpack right there.
Of course you do.
Yeah, in a stainless steel water bottle with some glyphosate-free honey.
That tracks. Because you've also been known to take what to an airport that's really weird?
Coconuts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although I knew that trick.
You did?
Yeah, with the straw.
Yeah, you knew the straw trick.
Yeah, that's an important trick.
I take all kinds of weird things through airports. They're always like looking at my stuff. I'm like, yo, guys, it's just hamburgers in a glass container. There's some squash there, and I brought some persimmons on the airplane today. I had some air-dried steak, and that's about it.
It actually sounds amazing. Okay, so we're into raw milk. Shredded cheese.
Can I just talk about raw milk for a minute?
Okay, let's do it.
So raw milk, any raw food has a risk of contamination.
Okay.
There are hundreds, if not thousands, of people sickened every year by eating salad, right? Sushi, all kinds of things that we are exposed to. Beef tartare. Raw foods have a risk, and the quality of the raw milk determines everything about how good the raw milk is going to be on the back end. If there's no difference between raw and pasteurized nutritionally, why drink raw? Why not just do pasteurized? But there's a lot of interesting science about raw milk positively affecting the immune systems of kids who drink it when they grow up on or off farms. So there are specific studies looking at lower rates of asthma, eczema, and allergies, the things I suffered from but didn't drink raw milk growing up, in kids who drink raw milk, whether they grow up on a farm or off a farm. That's interesting stuff, that raw milk could potentially program our immune system in certain ways. So we're kind of back to the organs thing, right? We're back to animal foods benefiting other animals across species. That's fascinating to me. So I would argue there are unique benefits to raw milk, and we should help support producers producing it safely and cleanly.
Why did we stop doing raw milk versus pasteurized?
Good question. So up until the early 1900s, all milk was raw. In the early 1900s, people were moving off of farms into cities, and people wanted milk. a lot of people were sickened by raw milk because they were milking cows in subsanitary conditions, mixing feces or urine with the milk. Doesn't sound very appetizing. And they were feeding cows swill, which is the spent grains of alcohol fermentation. That's where the term swill comes from. And so they were feeding cows garbage foods. They were milking them in subsanitary conditions, and people get sick. And then the milk was heated and pasteurized. And that helps with the public health issue. And we never sort of got back to the idea that we can now, with more technology, make milk raw in clean conditions and potentially expose this to people who can benefit from it.
Goat milk or cow milk raw?
I like both. I prefer goat milk, but that's just what I have access to easily in Costa Rica. There's a goat farm near me. I can go and milk the goats and see them.
Stop it.
No, I've done it. All the time.
I'm just picturing Paul Saladino with like a coconut in one hand, a goat in the other.
Like an udder in one hand, and yeah.
That's pretty incredible. Actually, this is a big movement. I feel like trad wives everywhere are into your lifestyle. You probably have them knocking down your DMs right now.
I wish. It doesn't have, no, I wish.
Okay, calling all single women.
I need a trad girlfriend.
Yeah, you do. I feel like they'd be into this.
The thing about cow milk is the casein variant. So there's A1 versus A2 casein in cow milk, and some people find they tolerate A2 better. So all Jersey and Guernsey cows are A2. And sometimes you'll see this terminology on cow's milk now. It'll say A2, A2. If I'm going to drink cow's milk, I prefer an A2 cow's milk. All goat milk, bison milk, camel milk, horse milk, whatever, everything else is all A2. So if people are sensitive, think about A1, A2 if you're drinking cow's milk, or if you want A2 and you can get goat, that's easier. Goat has about 11% less lactose, so still a significant amount of lactose for people that may be lactose intolerant. Despite anecdote, it looks like people can still get lactose intolerance from raw milk. If you start slow, maybe you can change it. I used to be pretty lactose intolerant, and now I drink probably a liter plus of raw milk per day and don't have any lactose intolerance symptoms, but it doesn't happen immediately.
Yeah.
And if you are lactose intolerant and you want to do milk, you can do kefir, which is fermented milk, or yogurt, or cheese. There are a number of raw cheeses that are fermented for more than 60 days that have essentially no lactose.
That's fascinating. You know what I found really interesting is when I did the goat milk cleanse, I was satiated. I was not hungry all day.
Right? Going back to our earlier conversation about satiety.
100%. So people are like, are you hungry? I'm like, I'm actually not. Like, not at all. Do I want that cheeseburger? Yeah, that sounds nice. But do I actually feel like I physically need it? No, I don't. So it's really interesting. I want to hit on this one's for Stanley Sanchez, my father. Let's talk about American cheese and shredded cheese really quickly, because he's a big fan of both. And your videos, they mess me up a little bit.
Yeah, so the thing is shredded cheese, a lot of shredded cheese has cellulose on it to prevent caking, and when I've done this in the videos, put shredded cheese in water, you can see that the water turns cloudy. It's just full of cellulose, which is wood pulp, and it's hard to know what type of cellulose the manufacturer uses. Some types of cellulose, some cellulose derivatives are probably pretty harmful for the gut. But if you don't want wood pulp on your cheese, you might just have to deal with shredded cheese that clumps a little bit. A lot of shredded cheeses also have natamycin added, which is an antifungal agent. You don't want your cheese to be moldy, but again, do we really have confidence that we know what long-term exposure to an antifungal like natamycin is doing to human guts long-term? We have all sorts of species in our gut. Some are bacteria, some are viruses, some are fungi. We want them to coexist healthily and happily, and more additives in your food with shredded cheese. American cheese is not actually cheese. It's only a cheese product. It cannot legally be called cheese because of the actual ingredients in it. And if you look at it under a microscope, it's full of all sorts of garbage, right? It's packaged in plastic, so certainly there are endocrine disrupting chemicals from that plastic leaching into this sort of plastic cheese. It's full of microplastics. It's just not a good thing to be feeding our families.
So what type of cheese do you eat?
I like any sort of raw cheese. So there's raw cheeses traditionally, like Parmigiano Reggiano in Italy. That is a raw cheese by definition. You cannot have a Parmigiano Reggiano certified cheese that is not raw. An equivalent in sheep's cheese is Pecorino. Gruyere is often raw. I like all of the raw cheeses.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, if somebody's listening to this today and they're like, where do I start? Like, what are like the 3 easy things today that I could start to do if I want to detoxify either the things I put on my body or the things I put in my mouth? What are you leaving them with?
Start with your food, right? Because you're taking it into your body. This is becoming the cells of your body. So I think that there's very little that we do in our lives that has a bigger impact than the food that we eat. And I think that don't let perfect be the enemy of good when it comes to your food. If you have health issues, think simple. Start maybe with meat and fruit, and then see if the health issues get better over time, and then add things back gradually. And that's just, I think, a good starting point for people as a framework, as a blueprint. Doesn't have to be that exactly. More broadly, just get rid of processed foods. Eat things that your great-grandmother would have recognized, and you'll be in a really good space with regard to food. In terms of clothing and everything else, just gradually start reading labels, and you'll be sort of wide-eyed and surprised, and think about what you're putting on your body, what you're putting on your skin, and improve that as you can.
I love it. I've been lately ending with this question of, what's one, either maybe in your case it's a study, maybe it's a book, maybe it's a short story that you keep going back to again and again? Like, is there a source of inspiration for you written that you go back to? Inspiration
or a study that I am interested in terms of the research?
Could be anything. It could be your favorite. Maybe you're really into fantasy books. That looks like you.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is, but you tell me. What do you go back to, or is top of mind for you when I go to something that Paul keeps going back to learn from?
Do you know who Khalil Gibran is?
Yeah.
He wrote a book called The Prophet. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So in terms of not science related, just life lessons, I always go back to The Prophet.
Why?
I just find it beautiful. I find the words beautiful on marriage, on children, on relationships, on love, on work. It's a very interesting set of poetry that I think holds a lot of resonance for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Paul Saladino, thanks so much
for being here. Thank you so
here.
much for having me.
You didn't have a safety net growing up. You were kind of like an army kiddo. Yeah. How did you learn to take this risk, to go big?
You can't get to where you want to get to in life without a compass. And I think the most important thing is just reminding myself the power of speaking life and manifestation. There's something that just happens psychologically for me, and I just start to will myself in that direction.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Grammy award-winning superstar, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and cultural icon, Sierra. If you're tired of chasing someone else's definition of success and you're ready to design your own, today we are going to start that journey with you. Has there ever been a moment where you felt like the whole internet hated you? Like you got a ton of hate? Really?
Yeah. I don't know one great that hasn't been told they can't or hasn't been tried to be knocked down. And I think those moments, they make you more bulletproof. It lets you know that you're doing something right, that they have something to say. It's like, okay, I'm making you feel some kind of way. Let me stay the course. You're going to be challenged. You're going to fall. And when you fall, what do you go to? My faith is the one thing that gives me peace to get things where they need to be and just to stay the course.
What do you think is one of your business superpowers? What are the things you're we think about the design this way that nobody else does? What is that for you, do you think?
Good question. I think it goes back to...
So I was going through your bio. Holy hell, not a slouch. 23 million albums sold, probably more now because this is outdated, all of these companies. Then I see some of your fashion stuff. And I was wondering, is there something that you say to yourself before you go out on a stage to tens of thousands of people to hype yourself up?
Yeah, I'd probably say a few things. I always pray before I go on the stage. That's a must do. Even if I'm rushing to the stage, before I go, I can be in my little silo on the back, in the backstage on the side, in the wing literally, and I'm get that prayer in. So I'm really big on that. I normally do it with my team, which is always a beautiful thing, and I'm pretty much on time for the most part with stuff like that. But yeah, I would say before I go on stage, I also have to take a deep breath sometimes. The nerves, depending on the situation, the nerves can be really high, so I'm we got to bring them down. And I'm let's go. We got this. You're supposed to be here. God called you here. Let's go get it. I'll hype myself up inside. You got this. That's probably the most consistent sentence. You got this. Let's go.
Yeah. So you still get nerves?
Oh, yeah. I do.
That never goes away.
I used to have a rule. I would say we don't say the nervous. We don't say that word. Cool. There was something psychologically for me that I feel it could trigger more nerves.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get that fresh nervous feeling all over again. I'm why do I feel this way? God, I've been doing this a lot now. And why does it feel new, all over again? And I remember being on Jenna Bush, co-hosting some shows with her. And she said to me, she said, those nerves are what lets you know, like, like you're thriving. Like it's like a feeling that you get, like it's, like you're alive, like it's something to those nerves, like something good's going to happen when you have that feeling.
Yep.
So I've really worked, and I continually work at like embracing when I'm having that moment, like, okay, it's a part of it. Like, we got this. And then literally whenever I hit the stage, the first 3 seconds or 3 to 5 seconds, nerves are gone. And now we're in the zone.
I do feel like that. I always think pressure is a privilege.
Yes.
And so
We
like
always say that.
recognizing those little butterflies, like this means it's game on.
Yeah.
Like at least we're doing something big now. We're not playing small.
There we go.
Which I
like
think
that.
is so cool.
Yeah.
I've never done anything like you have, but I've like given a bad speech before. Like where I just know it's bad, and it hasn't happened that much, which is like so cool, or I'm not aware of it yet. And so, but I'll get off, and it's such a horrifying feeling.
Yeah.
Have you ever like bombed a performance and thought, this was so bad? And then what do you do to snap out of it after you've quote unquote failed?
Performance, I've definitely had some moments where I'm like, man, that could have been better. I wish I had one more take. I think it's like you kind of have to, like, I love this word embrace. Like you embrace the moment. You're like, okay, how do I learn from this? And it's like you got to psychologically, you kind of got to psych yourself out. Yeah. Like, it's like, okay, that happened, but all right, everyone to the next. Like you literally have to, it's like have amnesia. That's what it is. Like you got to have a little amnesia when you have your blunders in life or you make your big mistakes. It's like, okay, I got to have amnesia so that I don't like hold onto that upset and disappointing feeling for too long. It's like, okay, where did we mess up? Why did we mess up? Okay, now note it. All right, amnesia. Forgot about it. Let's go. Like, because it is a psychological thing. And because I'm a perfectionist, I will let the moments, where I feel like I didn't do my best, or I wish I could have like done something differently. I will let those things like get in my head. And I try to do like good mind control for my mental sake, because the more you like, you harp on things not being right, there is a negative impact to that. If you hold on to that energy and that weight. So I have to like reset, clear slate, nothing happened. All right, now what are we doing today? Where are we going next, And then you're like, the next time I get that shot, I am never doing that again, right? And it could be, to your point, whether it's on the stage or it can be a meeting, like you said, it can be a speech, any of those scenarios.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to clean the slate.
Yeah, I think it's all contextual too, right?
Yeah.
When you're at your level, you're like, ooh, I was supposed to be here, and maybe I was right here. But I think we all, wherever you are in life, it can feel like it's the end of the world, even though, later you is not going to think anything about it. We were talking before the podcast about how like young you has to be kind of, you use the word delusional.
You got to be delulu.
And I think
you do gotta, I mean, when I was younger, well, I don't want to stop you.
I want to hear it.
Well, what I realized is that hindsight 2020, when I was a little girl and I walked into rooms, and also being a woman of color, I never walked into the room thinking that I had any issue, like anything against me. I didn't think there were any odds stacked against me because I was so committed to my vision and I believed so much in it. And I think I just saw like the vision happening and coming to life in my mind, that when I walked into rooms, like I was like very like fearless and like, I mean, I probably would have been outspoken to some. Like they're probably like, this girl, she's saying too much, or she needs to shut up, or they probably were saying all these things, but I was like, I was a little delulu. I wasn't like really mindful of like, I didn't think about those things first, right? And I think that you kind of have to have that mentality, especially being a woman. I think there's an automatic perception of us when we walk into rooms, especially back then. I think it's kind of starting to change a little bit by bit for us, but you have to have that that mental approach. Like the moment we start putting all these thoughts in front of in our minds and in our heads, we start to like curtail things or like to change it up versus like what's your instinct tell you to do? What's your gut tell you? Like I still have to challenge myself to stop prefacing things like, if this sounds right, or, stuff like that. Like, if that makes sense, like I'll say that kind of stuff. It's like, no, it does make sense. Right. But when you're young, it's just like a little puppy. Like you don't know, you just do what you feel. And I'm so glad that I had that. And then I also had to learn along the way, okay, there's ways you have to like, do things. And most importantly, as a woman, emotions left at the door. Emotions have to stay at the door. Like when it comes to business, there's no black and white. There's no gray, it's black and white. Emotions, put them like this, toss them and attack, so it took me some time to learn a lot of things along the way, but I'm so glad that I was a little delulu as a young girl coming up because I went for it, and I'm so glad I did.
No kidding. But it's a great point that you say, which is, I don't think we were told, like, I'm Latina, and sometimes people will say, oh, well, it must have been hard as like a Latina in finance or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, bitch, those guys all look the same. It was Chad and Brad and Matt and, whatever. And at least I look different. So like, I don't know. I think you kind of can write your own narrative and say like, maybe it's a win.
Yeah.
So like now you have kids. Like, what do you tell them? Like, are there words in Sierra's house? You're like, no. You don't label yourself this way. Like this is how we talk about ourselves.
I think the greatest thing is like, really catching my kids if they say negative things about themselves. Like, I can't, do this, or I'm not good at math, or I'm not good at this. Like, I'm really big on removing that negative thought, and I'm just consistent. I follow through with like, you can, like, you're so smart, you're so capable, like, always speaking life, like, you're so amazing, like, you're so awesome, like, you're so fun to be around. Like, if there's friendship challenges, like, I try to like go opposite of the things that like, I know their little minds start to process, and I'm like, let me speak life into them. So the biggest thing for me that's been a standard internally is like, we don't quit, right? Just because something didn't work out and maybe you didn't ace a scenario doesn't mean you're a failure. To me, failing is when you quit, right? So that's kind of like my mentality, and I'm really big on that, passing that down to my kids, because I think that's really served me well. And yeah.
Well, it's interesting. So you have, this giant career, but from what I can see, like you didn't have a safety net growing up. You were kind of like an army kiddo.
Yeah.
You moved around constantly. You didn't have connections in music. And so how did you learn to take this risk, to go big?
So I always say I'm an only child. Okay. I think that when you're an only child, you have a lot of time on your hands to dream and like, imagine things and like, just do all that kind of stuff. And I've naturally been a very ambitious individual. And I don't know if it's my only child in me. Like, it's kind of like, I'm going to get what I want, I think I am. But most importantly, I was given a lot of love growing up. We didn't have a lot financially, but my love made me feel like I was so rich on the inside, especially. My greatest thing, though, what I did is I'm always big on, like, you can't get to where you want to get to in life without a compass. And that was like a natural instinct for me. So the moment I decided I was going to be an entertainer, I literally sat in my room. I was probably 13-ish years old. And I had a goal sheet. And I was like, I'm going to write down my game plan. Because I had decided, I had a conversation with my classmates at lunch. And I was like, we were talking about life after high school, and it's time to start talking about, the colleges you're going to go to and registering and all that stuff. And I'm like, I run track, I'm fast, I am leaving a couple people in the dust, but I ain't breaking records. Okay. I did long jump, triple jump, 4x1, 100. I mean, like, I was thriving, but again, I was realistic. I'm not breaking records. That's holding up a gold medal just may not be for me. And I also did cheerleading, which I loved, but I was like, that's not going to be my ultimate job, but I love it and respect the sport. Shout out to the cheerleaders in the world. Okay. It is a sport. All right. But I was like, I know I can sing and dance, and was never trained to do any of it. Like, it was me just kind of being within myself. Again, only child, energy. Like, you're like, I think I have some talents here. Like, okay, let me channel these talents. And I knew I wanted to be an entertainer. And the moment I decided that, like, me being a determined little girl and like ambitious, I said, let me write down my game plan to get there. And literally 2 weeks after I wrote down my game plan, which was, and it was a yellow blue line paper. I've got to go to my mom's house to find this, or my mom and dad's house. But basically I had 3 goals. My first goal was to get discovered. And then I said, I wrote down how I was going to do it. So I was going to put myself in talent shows and, find ways to be exposed so someone could discover me. And I remember signing up for the national anthem at my high school. It was the first thing I ever did publicly, right? Now, mind you, I'm coming raw. I had no training. Nobody's told me, how to do this. I'm just doing what I thought I saw on TV or what I was studying. So I'm singing the national anthem and then on and the rock is red glare. I cracked. And then I'm like, sorry, the bomb's bursting. But I was really so nervous. Okay, but that was the beginning, right? I said, put myself in talent shows, go do the national anthem, just do anything to be exposed. That was the first goal, get discovered and how to do it. So the second goal was once I got discovered, to sell 3 to 4 million albums. And then the third goal was to have longevity. Okay. So this was like my little short list, my short goal list.
At 13.
Yeah. So I did the national anthem, talked to my friends at school about this is what I'm going to do, at that same table where you're talking about our goals post high school. And one of my friends remembered that I said I wanted to be an entertainer. And he comes up to me like 2 weeks later and he's like, hey, see, there's this group. They're looking for a third member. Would you want to audition? And I'm like, yeah. So I get on the phone, I start singing, and I sound a hot mess. I don't know why they wanted to see me, to be honest with you, but they still wanted to see me. Maybe my friend pumped me up and was like, I'm telling you, she's so talented or something. I don't know. But they still wanted to see me. I went to the group's house, and this third member they were looking for, I was probably the fifth person to audition for this. They had already had 4 girls before me kind of thing, right? So, and the third member just was not working out for this group. But I made the group, made the group, and then clearly that didn't work out. But I still had my eyes set on the prize. And I ended up pursuing my solo career with the same person that discovered the group or was working the group. Signed my first admin deal when I was 15. And then I signed my first recording contract with a major label at 16.
That is wild.
Okay, so now goal 1, check. Get discovered. Thank God it happens, right? Then I put out my first album, Goodies, when I turned 18. Well, the song Goodies came out when I was 18, album 19, all in the same year.
That was 18.
And I put that out, and then thank God, we not only did 3 to 4 million albums, we did 5. And it's still rolling, right? And then the third goal was to have longevity. And so now I sit here talking to you, 21 years later since I put out the album, but I just always been a big believer that you can't get to where you want to get to without a compass. And I think the most important thing is just reminding myself the power of speaking life and manifestation because it is real. Like a lot of things that have happened in my life, it's happened, of course, by working hard for it, but also by speaking life into it and manifesting it. And I'm really big on when I say, I want to make something happen. Once I believe it and then I start saying it, there's something that just happens psychologically for me and I just start to will myself in that direction, right? Yeah.
So if somebody wants to manifest like you, what is the process? Do you write it down, then you say it out loud, and you start taking action to it? How do we copy Sierra?
For me, I would say you got to have a vision first, right? And we got to be realistic with our vision. I knew I could sing and dance. I knew I was raw at it. A lot of my training happened in front of the world in real time, right? I didn't have a lot of show experience or any of that stuff. But, I had a vision. It was very clear. And I think that vision that you have is got to give you goosebumps.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's got to give you an exciting feeling, right? Because you're going to need that exciting and passion feeling more times than you can imagine, right? Because it's a passion. They say when you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. So it's my passion that gives me the will and sustains me through it all because I love what I do because it's hard sometimes, So I think it has to give you that excitement. Are you going to be ready to wake up every day early in the morning, have some sleepless nights, be tired as a dog, eyes red, everything, exhausted, mad at the world sometimes? Are you going to be ready? It's are you going to be ready for that? And that passion, again, is what's going to push you through it, right?
Especially because you do the stilettos too on the stage, which was one of my glaring questions is how does that we'll get to it later, but I don't think people quite understand I don't do what you do, but like even a YouTube video, the 42 takes you have to do for a YouTube video, I can't
Yes,
even
it's a
imagine.
lot.
Right. Because
The passion, right?
out.
I'm like, I want to make this great.
Yeah.
So you might go to bed, sore, beat up, shot. But it's like, for me, what do they say? Sometimes beauty is pain. Like, it's worth it for me because my mission is to be the best I can be. My passion is what drives me. Like, I want my fans to have the best experience and visual, right? Like visual experience, performance experience, song experience. So again, it goes back to my passion for that, right? So I'm always like, the day that I stop having that passion and love for what I do, then I stop.
Then you're out.
Because I know I won't. What you have to put into it, there's not enough zeros to quantify, the hard work, or at least you're trying to work to get enough zeros to quantify. But who knows? You may never get it. So that's why the passion is so important.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this quote from Emma Bombeck. She was like an old school feminist, but she says when I stand before God at the end of my days, I hope I will be able to say I'm wrung dry. I have not one drop left.
I love that.
I know. I always think about that.
Yeah.
That's what it takes. You got to do the work that is fun for you that other people feel like is work.
100%.
And then you win.
Yeah, 100%. So I would say the passion, I would say, once you've locked into that vision of what you want to do, it is big to write it down, to write down your goals, surrounding it, and then if you have other goals in general that aren't even connected to it, write down your goals. Because again, what's your compass? For me, in this very moment in my life, I'm overdue a whiteboard session. I love whiteboard sessions.
Love a whiteboard.
Right?
Yes.
You put everything up on the board. It helps you to see clear, what do you have going on at this moment? And then what do you need to do less of? And then are we staying focused?
Yeah.
So again, check your compass. Set your compass and then continually check it.
Yeah.
But yes, write it down, right? And then there's this part of believing, right? Believing in the vision and then speaking life into it.
I love that line. So when you're whiteboarding, is this do you and your husband whiteboard?
We whiteboard together.
Stop it, that's adorable.
We do.
Who's in charge of the marker?
Our team. We both get on the board. we are both so passionate and so determined together to accomplish our goals that we have individually and together. It's important, I think, for one hand to know what the other hand is doing. We both feel that way. Yeah. And so we love a whiteboard because it also, in the midst of our hectic lives, because his world goes a mile a minute, my world goes a mile a minute, our minds go a mile a minute, but it helps us to kind of be in sync in the midst of the chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we love doing it with our teams, So, yeah, I think if you have those visualization, writing it down, believing in it, writing it down and speaking life into it, those things work, and they have worked. And then obviously, I'm a spiritual person, so I believe in praying over what I'm trying to accomplish. It's really significant and it's a very important piece, I believe it's Habakkuk 2:2. And please forgive me if I'm misquoting it. All of the people that have the Bible down to the T, which is one of my goals, right?
They'll tell us.
But it says, write it and make it plain. It's a really, or faith without, what is it? Faith without works is dead. Or there's these different things that they say. It's you got to believe in the vision. You got to be clear in your vision. Don't be all over the place. Hone in on what you really want to accomplish. And then go for it.
Yeah, my pastor the other day said something that I was like, that's so good. Sometimes I feel a little guilty asking for material things or stuff in life, right? And he was like, who are you to think that God is so small that he can't handle that and everything else? And I was like, I don't know, but I feel that,
Yeah.
So is there I love that you're talking about faith. I think it's we were talking about it before. It's having a little bit of a resurgence. It's okay to talk about it publicly. I feel for a while it wasn't so public. But I'm curious for you, how do you integrate faith into what you do? Your husband and you are both faith-based from what I can understand. And what does even praying over it look like to you? Oh,
man. You have to have faith because you're going to be tested. Right. You're going to be challenged. You're going to fall, right? And when you fall, what do you go to? What is your, what do you fall back on? What helps you to get back up it's your faith. Like it's the ability to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And for me, I'm always looking towards the light. And even if I have a moment where I have to pause and regather myself, I'm sincerely, I really mean what I'm saying. I'm not even saying it just to say it. Like I always see the light at the end of the tunnel. My philosophy is also too, like the sun is shining no matter where I am. Right? You hear people talk about like the weather and they're like, you know, living in Seattle, they're like, it's always so good. I'm like, listen, the sun is always shining no matter where I'm. Like that's my mentality. Right? But you have to see the light because again, it goes back to that passion, right? Your passion is going to drive you. But man, when it gets tough and you're like, can this really happen? Like this feels impossible. This feels insurmountable. Like I got to stand on something. And my faith is the truest thing. It's the one thing that also gives me peace. It's the one thing that makes my weight or the heaviness of things feel lighter because it allows me to believe again. It allows me to like, you know, reinstill my hope, like to get things where they need to be and just to stay the course.
Yeah.
So I picked up my phone because there was this thing I looked up about faith the other day. Faith strengthens us during trials. Because we live in a sinful, fallen world, we will face difficulties, but our faith is what helps us remain strong during hard times. We have an enemy, and it's our faith that acts as a shield to protect us from his schemes and plots. Above all, taking the shield of faith, which you will be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one, Ephesians 6:16. It says, we should not be surprised when our faith is tested. James 2:3 says that the testing of your faith, I love this one. I can just say it without looking because it's one of my favorite scriptures, but the testing of your faith produces perseverance so that you may be mature and not lacking, right? And it says before that, to consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kinds, for the testing of your faith produces perseverance. So you will be mature and not lacking, right? That's the whole. But think about that ability to consider it pure joy when you're in the toughest part of your life or feels like the toughest part, to have faith, to be able to smile through it all. Oof. What a feeling. I remember having like a really hard time, like, you know, it was some years ago. And this is a scripture that Russ and we love. It's one of our favorite ones. And I remember him saying it to me and it was almost like a weight was lifted because it was a reminder like there's going to be something so good. There is some gold in this valley.
This moment. There
is something that's going to be so good that's going to come out of this. And I've just got to like stay the course, you know, like keep my faith. So, yeah.
Is that ever hard to have faith like that in Hollywood? I mean, I'm such an outsider, but people say so many things about the place and how crazy the music world is. World.
You know, it's really interesting. You know, I will say this. I believe that my spiritual foundation is really important. And I think if I went to school, I'd be a psychologist, I swear. Ooh. Like there's something that I'm really fascinated with about how the mind thinks and processes. And I do think that in our industry, it can be a very dark world because oftentimes people are finding themselves, one, you know, you got to be mindful, don't glorify man and things. We are in an industry that makes you, kind of pushes you to do that. Like you look at others and they may be way ahead of you and you're like, I want their life or, you know, awards, like you feel like that's the high point, like all these tangible things that you can't even take with you anyways, right? But people sometimes, like in the Bible, it also says, what good is it for a man to gain the world and lose his soul? You can have everything and have nothing. And I feel like that's a more commonality in my industry than not. And I think the examples of that is in, you know, when people, like I was reading something about, you know, I want to be mindful because I don't want to feel like I'm calling someone out, but someone, you know, an actor who was massive, like he's living homeless at this moment. He went through some tough times. And then you see another moment where someone's kind of like, you can see them mentally battling things, like all these different scenarios. And like, it's real, you know, and you can help want to pray for people. But it's like, man, like you just pray for God's protection, right? You know, I'm like, we got to have a foundation of, for me, God and Jesus are important for me, faith, you know, all those things. You have to. And then like run your own race at your own pace, you know, like don't be distracted by what's happening to the right and left of you. Like if someone's having a successful moment and they feel like you work harder than them and like, why am I not there? Like, don't even question it. Like your journey of success is perfectly designed for you. Your big moment's going to happen for you when it's supposed to happen for you. So celebrate those moments. Like, change that energy, flip it. Don't be jealous, of it. Like, actually celebrate those individuals. Give them a pat on the back. Like, all those things, and just like be good with where you are, right?
That's so true, and hard to do, but so true.
Yeah.
But you've seen the full spectrum. You've gone through tons of cycles. I'm sure has there ever been a moment where you felt like the whole internet hated you? Like you got a ton of hate. Really?
Yeah. For sure.
It's like every Tuesday. I know it's
no,
hard.
I mean, listen, I don't know what one great that hasn't, reached some of the highest points, that hasn't been told they can't, or hasn't been tried to be knocked down. And that's a part of the process. And again, I think those moments, like they make you more bulletproof. Because I'll be darned if I let a human tell me what I can and can't be. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, you can try and write it all kind of ways. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I'll be taking names. I'll be taking screenshots because I'll be like, I'm gonna run this back when I go platinum again, like, oh, remember, like, okay, noted. Sometimes I actually do that. I might need to share a couple of names. I was playing. No, but
Let's do it.
Yeah,
I do it too.
no.
Like, there's something about a chip on your shoulder.
Well,
I keep a name.
Yeah.
I had a guy tell me, I hope one day you get more followers because you dumbed down the firm today. Like, I remember the exact sentence.
Wait, what?
And I screenshotted that shit. I have it to this day. Sometimes, because I'm real low, I'll have the audience go, F you, Dan. I wish I was better. I am trying, God. But it also fuels me.
Oh my gosh,
so
yeah.
It makes me feel better that you sometimes keep names too.
No, I do. I do. I don't want to spend too much weight on those people, but I do. And I think, you use it as motivation, like it lets you know, like, they say that, or Russ is a line he would say, the greater you great, the more they hate. Like, it lets you know that you're doing something right, that they have something to say, right? It's like, okay, I'm making you feel some kind of way. Let me stay the course.
Let's talk about like love and relationships a little bit. Like, not only have you had this big successful career, and I know that every relationship has got its things, and I'm very happily married and he's incredible, but we fight. We just try to fight fairly if we can.
Yeah. Fights are healthy sometimes.
I think so. At least we need. I'm Spanish, he's Greek. We're crazy.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, yeah, we're not docile. But now you have this beautiful partnership. What is some of the things you do, some of the secrets that you have? How do you stay grounded and happily married in a world that is chaotic and a crazy career too?
Yeah, I think, we always say, we said it since day one we got engaged. It was actually part of the first conversation we had after he proposed to me. It's like we say, having Jesus at the center. Having a spiritual foundation is really important. Because, what is it? Like, lean out on your own understanding. Sometimes when we put the matters into our hands, it gets real tricky, But I would say communication, man. Sometimes you have to have hard communication moments. And I do believe that, at least historically for us, whenever we've had a conversation where it's like, okay, this is a big conversation, so many good things have come out of it, right? And we've grown together through those moments. So you can't be afraid to talk about the stuff that makes you uncomfortable. Communication rules the nation. I've always said that. And we really believe in doing that, and so I think that's important.
How did you decide that he was your dude?
I knew.
Right away?
Yeah, they say when you know, you know. It's funny because he and I, when we were talking the first night in person, is a really unique situation, because my dad was actually at my house and my firstborn was at my house too. And, I said, well, we were meeting up as friends, and he's like, I wasn't coming over. I wasn't meeting up just to be no friends, We joke about, we laugh about that. Yeah. No, but it was, more so than anything, because in this world that we live in, unfortunately, when you step outside, like normal people would when you're dating, if someone sees you, they preset things for you, and so you want to protect that and give yourself a chance to really get to know each other. So when we were talking, in person for the first time, we literally forgot to eat, right? We were supposed to eat at some point, and he had a meeting actually, and then I needed to get my food. We talked about I actually talked about a restaurant that we liked in the conversation. But anyways, we chatted, you know, for hours. And, you know, when we were talking, I'm like, he's different. And the conversation, the initial conversation that we had felt like no initial conversation I ever had in my life. And I remember calling my best friend and makeup artist, Yolanda Frederick Thompson. I called her and I said, Yoli, I was like, I don't want to jinx anything. I was like, but I think, and I didn't even want to say it. And she said, he's the one. And I go, yes. Oh. And the same thing for him when he was talking to his friend, you know, after we were together, he said the same thing, right? But you just know, when you know, you know. It's a feeling, you can't fully describe it, but you know the difference. And so that's my, you know, my story. Yeah.
I felt the same way with my husband.
You
laughed.
did?
Yeah, totally. Well, we've known each other since we were 11. So I guess when I first met him, when I was 11, I wasn't feeling that way. But we like reconnected later in life. He stayed friends with my dad. They're very close. But our first date was 3 days, which is crazy because we went to a music festival. And then 3 weeks later, we moved in together. And
so wait, how did you guys, okay, you're friends, but when you reconnected, the energy was like, we're connecting on some other stuff. Okay, because I'm like, how y'all just turn into like, we're going to go on some dates? Like, okay. Yeah. So wait, then what happened? You said you moved in when?
3 weeks later.
Oh my gosh.
Which
so
is
it's crazy.
Unhinged. I'm like not that unhinged.
How long have you guys been married for?
We've been married for 7 years.
So good.
And been together for 10. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, we're going on year 10 of being married.
Congratulations.
Together. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's funny because, thank you. The first, we always say we were hanging out ever since we met. So, you know, shortly after then I'm living in Seattle and, you know, and now here we are.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What do you think? I mean, I know it's always tricky giving relationship advice, but like it seems like a lot of statistics. People are getting married less than ever. They're finding less love, you know, having less sex. And you could feel a certain way about those things. But I think there are a lot of people out there that are like looking for their person. Like, what do you tell a young woman or a not so young woman like about how to find their person or how to be a type of person that attracts your person?
Well, see, I think it goes back to some of that stuff I was saying earlier about manifestation and speaking life, you know, and I think there's also the take care of self phase. That's important for us, right? Like we have to, I think, love on ourselves first so we can be like good with self, right? And we don't want to be in a place where love is what makes us complete. Like, right? Love is a cherry on top, right? Now there is, you know, a saying in the Bible about without love, like you have nothing. So now, you know, you want to move from a place of love, like, you know, you would say God is love, you know, but yeah, I think that you want to be right with yourself first, right? Like go out yourself sometimes. Like it's okay to eat by yourself. Like it's okay to be by yourself. Like we have to embrace the self phase first, I think. And then I think that you have to like visualize what you want to attract in your life, right? What do you not want? You know, what does he or she look like to you? How do they love on you? Like, how do they love on themselves? How do they love the people around them? Do they make the room better? Like, you know, like you start to visualize all these things. And I do believe that there's power in that because you know what I do think we do sometimes? When you lawfully throw in the air that I want love, but you don't define it, you will get that. But then when you put in the air, like, I want love, but under these conditions, or it looks like this. You know, like it feels like this, like it makes me feel like this. Like you start to like have this thing to where it's like when you see it, you go, that's it. Yeah. But you're not able to see it if you don't define it.
It's so true.
Right?
It's like trying to explain a zebra to somebody who's never seen it. You're like, but once you've seen it, you're like, stripes,
yeah, you know
white,
that's exactly it.
Donkey, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also, you know, what's interesting about your relationship, if you guys have built businesses together. So we have one of your businesses right here, which we haven't even tried yet. I can't believe you made me coquitos.
I made you coquito. Like, I have to shout out Tony Chapman, the chef, because she taught me how to make this for the first time.
No way.
And when I tell you, I could not stop going back. No, for real. Because you can like slick get lit because it tastes so good.
I had to be hammered by the end of this podcast.
But it's a fun holiday drink.
Thank you.
So
this is lovely. And this is your rum.
Yeah, 10 to 1 rum. I'll tell you a little bit after the first sip.
This is delicious.
Oh my gosh.
Also, I feel kind of fancy. You just stick this cinnamon stick in here. I'm into things that are fancy but super easy.
The
You know what I
little
mean?
pops of detail.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not complicated.
No.
Some coconut, condensed milk. We have our white rum and our dark rum. And I'll just tell you, there's 0 sugars in our rum. We want people to reimagine rum, right? Look at rum in a way that you've never seen it before. Get out of the colonial, got to make it in pina colada, strawberry daiquiris only.
Yeah.
Rum can play. We say to any other spirit, anything you can do, rum can do better. Just facts. But no, seriously, like you can have so much fun with rum. So like, for example, you're Latina. And you know, we like margaritas. I said we, because I'm Mexican. I'm Mexican, okay? Black and Mexican.
I've never heard that before.
Yes,
I love that.
Black and Mexican. But I love a margarita, but I take the rum, I call it a rumarita. So you do the white rum in place of the tequila.
That's hot.
Yes, but you can have fun. Like you can have so much fun and play. And that's been an amazing discovery for me on the journey of rum and sharing my story. That was the first drink I ever had in my life was rum at 21. And so it's a real thing for
21?
me. Yeah, first time.
You never had a drink before 21?
Never.
Good for you.
I accidentally sipped some gin in my mom's fridge. I thought it was water.
That sounds awful.
I was
That's
little,
not okay.
I spit that thing out so fast, but my first drink official, like this is what I'm doing, was 21.
That's wild. I was not as good as you. I had a few cocktails.
Well, you're Latina, so you know. I start early.
I'm going to blame it on
I'm
that.
Mexican, so I understand.
But also you speak Spanish. Actually, I heard a funny thing about you. I heard you can do all the accents.
Yeah, kind of. I can. I play around.
What's
I think
your
it's the
favorite
military
accent
baby
to
in
do?
me.
Oh, that's probably part of it. Well, plus you're an entertainer. Like even the way you say sentences is interesting because they're thoughtful. Like you said a thing, well, 2 ways. One, I want to hear your favorite accent.
This is so good.
Dude, I'm telling you.
My favorite accent is Latin, is Mexican. Come on.
Okay,
Or
come on.
Spanish.
What's the best accent?
Hola, me llamo Ciara. Yo no espero. Estoy muy agradecida para hoy o para el día.
Nailing it.
Y yo, sí, yeah. Yo estoy muy agradecida.
Aw, I'm happy to have you too.
Sí.
I want to tell
and
you,
then-
I hear you can do a crazy Steph
Oh
impression.
my gosh.
I think we should
Steph,
embarrass her.
She's like, girl, I don't know if I'm going to be up in there like that because we ain't going to be doing that interview if they talking crazy. We ain't doing it. I'm telling them right now. I'm going to call them up. Watch this. You know, I'm from Decatur, Georgia, so.
You nailed that. People
I'm a
don't know
Southern
her, but
girl.
like I'm a little bit crying.
No, she will. That's that voice, right?
Yeah,
I'm going to tell him we ain't calling his ass.
Oh my God. She
I'ma
told me
call
this
him
one
right back.
story about like throwing a shoe. And she was like, I can't do accents, but
Yeah.
she was like, I told them, if you throw a shoe at me, you better knock me out.
That's
'cause
exactly
I'm coming at you.
Exactly.
I was
She
like,
said, she's like, I'm a chihuahua. She said something crazy about being a chihuahua in a pit bull's body or something she said that was crazy. A pit bull in a chihuahua's body or something. And I was like, and the pit bull always wins. You know, something about the tiny ones. They're just so big. But
you know
I
what?
am
Shout
obsessed.
out to the tiny ones.
Shout out to the tiny ones, yes. But I am obsessed with like, you know, languages. So like my biggest thing is when I travel, I like to, it's kind of my way of showing respect and appreciation to that region or that country. And I love being able to always say like, hi and bye and thank you. So if I go to Japan, I say, Choto nihongo hanashimasu. Watashi no namae wa Sera desu. Hi. You know, arigatou gozaimashita. Toire wa doko desu ka? Like, I'm really big on like knowing, you know, how to communicate, how to get around. And my biggest thing is to ask how to do it. So if I want to learn, because I'm like a little obsessed with learning languages. And so if I want to say in Japanese, how do you say? I say, nante uno. Nante uno water. Nante uno, where's the bathroom? You know, and they'll say, toire wa doko desu ka? Or like, so I do that. Or in Spanish, como se dice, I love you, or como se dice, you know, which we know, te amo mucho, or, you know, but I'll say that, or, you know, if I'm in France, I would say, bonjour, je m'appelle Ciara, comment allez-vous? Ça va bien, et toi? Au plaisir de vous voir. Like I always would say that to my fans, like it's so nice to meet you, you know, merci beaucoup. Or if I go to China, it's ni hao, xie xie, you know, bukachi. Like I love doing that, you know. And my dad was in the Army, my mother was in the Air Force. So it's a military baby in me. that's like kind of obsessed, you know.
So do you like go out on the stage and you say their language too?
Yeah, so if I'm in Japan, I say "Migi hidaidi,"
Oh, I
you
bet
know,
they
like
lose
right side.
it.
Oh yeah, undo bouge in French is 1-2 step. I remember back in the days, so I would do that.
I love that.
And then if I'm in London, I would say, darling, how are you? You're right. Are you lovely? It's lovely to see you. You know, I'm going apples and pears to get some Rosie Lee. It's like good, isn't it? Is it all right? I'm like, so amazing, right? Yeah. But whatever. I love to do, you know, it's fun. It's really fun. And I'm going to tell you, talk about being determined. I wanted to learn how to speak with an English accent so bad. And listen, I am not perfect, okay, with it, but I do my best. But I had to audition for a movie. It was a big movie. And I had to speak with an English accent. And I went to go and audition for it. And literally in the, I had like 3 days to learn how to speak with an English accent. And I had been trying to do it anyways. It was so bad. I pray no one ever sees that tape. But I was like, I've got a baby in me tummy. And I'm like, I've got to like, it was worse than that. You know, because I really couldn't get like and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get it. Like I was so determined. You know,
good for you. Yeah. My husband says they all sound like a Mexican Russian, which is not really good. It's not a good combo.
So, you sound like a Mexican
Yeah,
Russian?
When I do my accents, they all just like converge
oh my gosh.
to the mixture
Hilarious.
of the two. It's not good. But I do think, you know, I think there's something really beautiful about this like curiosity, you know, like you continue. So your bio is so fascinating. Like we talked about 10-1 a little bit, which I hear is like one of the most awarded rums out there. I had no idea, by the way. And then you also have Third Brand, which is
3 Brand.
3 Brand. And 3 Brand Children's Apparel Company. Is it public that you did $100 million in revenue in 2024? Can we say that?
Yeah, you can.
That's wild.
Yeah, we've been
These
very,
are big
very
businesses.
blessed. Yeah, you know, I got to say it's been an incredible journey. You know, I think especially like you mentioned, doing everything together. Yeah. You know, talk about a why not you attitude, because we obviously have our why not you foundation, and we're just big believers in like, you know, once we believe in something or we set out to do something, most importantly, being connected, genuinely connected to what we do, right, is important. Like you got to have that authenticity factor. And so 10-1 Rum, as I mentioned, was a genuine spirit for me that I, you know, love since day one. And I love the challenge of, you know, getting people to understand the beauty of rum. And with 3 Brand, you know, Russ that's really his jam. You know, we talk about sports, music, and fashion, the 3, you know, 3 of the most powerful forces, you know, in the world, and the power of what happens when they come together. And when you get to do it through youth, you know, the youth is really important to us. We really love being able to speak life into the youth with the why not you mentality. When it comes to fashion, you know, it's a fun place to play in and a fun place to activate in. We obviously have our kids, you know, family is really important to us. And we get to share, you know, our passion and pour our passion and love into the brand, to 3 Brand as a whole. And it's a gift, you know, when you say those numbers for just 2024 alone. We've been on this journey for like almost 3 years, so you can multiply that by 3, right? Which is a blessing. And so, you know, it's not ultimately about that. You know, it's really about the ability to impact. You know, that's our ultimate goal. We love being able to impact and inspire kids in such a great way. And there's nothing better than doing it through fashion. So it's been a fun journey. And it's the coolest thing, you know, when we're taking our kids to school and you see other kids wearing 3 Brand, it's like, hey, like Russ was like saying to your dad, it's like, hey, that's my brand, you know, and it's the cutest thing. It makes you feel proud. It makes you feel motivated. And, you know, we've got some exciting things happening for the brand, and it's really just getting started.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's fascinating about you is like, you obviously your songs are huge and you've done all these brand deals, but it feels like from a business perspective, you're starting to talk about business even more now with the podcast that you have or the show that you have.
Oh, Apple Radio, Level Up Radio on Apple Music.
There you go. And I think it's really cool because I don't even know that, you know, we've all known you. I remember when your first album came out, we've like known you publicly for a long time. But even when I was prepping for this, I was like, holy hell, she's done so much more than I realized. Like, what do you think is one of your like business superpowers? Like, why is 3 Brand $100 million? Like, what are the things you're you're like, we're so good at culture here, or we think about the design this way that nobody else does. Like, what is that for you, do you think, in some of these brands?
I think it goes back to quality. Quality is everything. You know, you can talk a good game all day, but it comes down to how well does the item perform. I think that we do really great at quality when it comes to our products and the things that we associate ourselves with. I think
has to be hard, right? Because you're getting pitched a billion things a day.
Yeah, it is. But, you know, fortunately, a lot of the things that we've been doing, we've actually kind of started them, you know, and then there's like investment opportunities that you do. And that's like kind of gambling a little bit. You're taking a risk and those, you know, it's great when it works.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is that a lot of the brands that we're focused on right now are ones that have come directly from us to some extent. 10 to 1, actually, my partner, Mark Farrell, I met him a year after he got going with 10 to 1. It was in the middle of the pandemic. And I was pregnant as all get out. And then I also breastfed for 10 months long enough. And it was time for me to celebrate that moment. And I had a mojito with the white rum, the 10 to 1 white rum. And again, I had already had my passion about rum, but I was really curious about this brand. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And then I met my partner, you know, and then, you know, now we're 5 years in the journey, and I serve as an investor and a proud co-founder and co-owner. And but it goes back to quality and the people too. You know, people are everything. And then culture. I think culture is really key. You know, when we think about like the challenges, or not even just the challenges, but like the fun parts of like 10 to 1, like the culture of people that we get to engage with. You know, I get to work with some of the best chefs in the world. Like I was with Chef Kwame, and we're actually in all of his restaurants, 10 to 1 is. And, you know, people like him, or, you know, Tony, as I mentioned to you, Tony Chapman, and, you know, all these talented people, we get to like engage with people culturally. There's that Afro-Caribbean energy that's really coming strong. And like, that's a big part of like our energy too, you know, the Caribbean piece of it. So culture is everything. And then, you know, the places that we get to go to on the ground and how we get to touch and activate with people. And then when it comes to 3 brand in particular, again, it goes back to culture too, right? There's this sports energy. And as I mentioned, sports, music, and fashion, like those are all big pieces of Russ and I, right? So we get to like, we do this every day, right? And we get to bring it all together. And community is really important for us, right? So I feel like that's another aspect that we really, I would say, tap into really well and are very connected with, because we love the people.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about partnerships in varying ways.
Yeah.
But I'm sure a lot of people want your time and attention. So like, how do you determine, hey, I want to partner with this person.
Passion.
I want this person in my life. Like, what's the screen?
Oh, the person, when it comes to people, you have to connect, you know. I think it's important that your vision, you know, your how you see things, you know, how you connect to things, like it has to be aligned, right? And what's a person's vision, and can they add value, right? You want to be around people that can bring even more than you can at times, right? That you can grow with, you can learn from. Like, I don't want to be the person with all the answers. I think if that's the case, then we're in trouble, right? Because I definitely don't know all the answers. I need help, you know? So you want to be surrounded by like-minded individuals. You want to be around people that, you know, share the same vision as you. And maybe it's people that have already been there before. So they can pass down their wisdom. Like, that's my greatest goal right now at this point in my career, is I want to work smarter, not harder. And also being a mom and being there for Russ. I say I have my 4 babies, and Russ is my biggest one. Okay? You already know. Okay?
I do.
Our men, they be babies. They be babying. But, you know, so like that's a real thing, right?
Yep.
So it's like, how do I work smarter and not harder at this point in my life and in my career?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I made that mistake so many times early on in my career. I would partner with somebody who like hadn't figured anything out yet.
Yeah.
And then I would work harder than them. Or they wouldn't, you know, I'm sure with you, it's got to happen. They're like, I see her, like, I want to be associated with all that. Let me get on that coat train, you know? Yeah. And at some point we just realized, like, we're not going to partner with somebody who hasn't already shown, like, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, I think. So like, you got to show that you're winning. You got to show that you want to work harder than I do, because there's so many people that don't. And I think a lot of times with partnerships, we like buy into them in the same way we buy into like somebody's potential. And so we're like, no, I'll fix him.
Yeah.
Like how many of us have said that? And so I think that's really interesting. So have you, like with a mark, like if somebody's trying to figure out their avatar of like, all right, how do I trust somebody, which is so big today?
Yeah.
Like, how are you like, here's what I ask them, here's what I do, or here's how I knew.
Yeah. I mean, trust, I think you build over time. I don't think I'll ever trust someone from day one. I think trust is earned. And I can smell very early if I should trust or not trust someone. I can tell you this. I can tell you on day one if I can't trust you.
That's so good.
Yeah, I'm very pretty good with that. I got a good gut. That's the gift that women have. Women have the gift of intuition that is crazy.
Yeah.
It's
a lot
a
of us
gift.
shove it down, right? You don't.
Sometimes you
listen to
do.
it?
No. Sometimes people can, but no. I think when you've bumped your head a few times, you just know better, right? And then sometimes too, you do like to give grace. Like grace is important. But the moment you show me that I can't give you the grace or the grace pass should be revoked, I'm revoking it.
No second chances.
We ain't even playing with it.
It's actually smart. There's too many people. There's billions of people on this planet. They can go try with somebody else.
Yeah,
with
no,
love.
100.
Over there.
Exactly. You keep that over there. But no, I think back to your point, people, too, I think history is great. Like, for example, my partner, Mark, he was the youngest vice president at Starbucks, right, before he started 10 to 1. And Howard Schultz was actually our first investor.
Oh, that's a great sign.
On the journey, right? And we have some amazing people at the party that are supporting us along the way. But I think, he also went to Harvard and he had a great educational background, but also too just his experience within the space and also his education within the space. And, also, again, it came back to the product. The product says a lot. People can talk a good game, but what's the product doing, right?
Yep.
So there's all these different things that you check off the box to make sure, your foundation is going to be a strong one and that you feel confident in the tools that you have to get going on things. And then time tells you everything, right? So yeah, I think the person that walks into the room is really important in anything that you do. Like, who are they as a human? First and foremost, right? Because you want to work with good humans, right? You really do. Because I think it makes it worthwhile when the times are tough and you have to come together and grind together. Like, it's not easy, right? Like grinding for 10 to 1, it's not easy. Because again, rum is a category that's still telling a story, right? Tequila and vodkas and gins, they're already
that's a good point.
They've already done it. Rum is still doing it, which is exciting because there's so much opportunity and there's not many of us ladies in this category.
Zero. Yeah, I don't know one.
Which is
I'm
exciting.
sure there are some, but that is exciting.
So.
I love being a first.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And what's interesting is you have all of these practices now, it seems that you do every day. And these things that have led you to be the person that you are today. What are some of the things that if you knew them when you were 20, that you know now, would you tell God, I wish 20-year-old Sierra would have done this every day?
Just be patient. That's the greatest thing is that's why I say run your race at your own pace, because what life has shown me, 21 years later, right? I am, and I would say a little bit before 21 years later, after Goodies came out. But I remember, being signed to the systems and wanting to do certain things or achieve certain things. I'm when are they going to happen? And I was very blessed. A lot of my songs were really big out the gate. But still, you could have that big hit record, but then you're and then what? And then I still, if I'm missing this, I still feel like I'm missing this, this, and this. Yeah. But it's taken me 21 years to now start having certain things happen for me how I've always wanted them to. So it just shows me the power of patience. There's this saying where they say a parent would be patience is a virtue. They would say that when you're young, what is that? What does that even mean? Patience is a virtue. It's I'm trying to get to patience. I bump the virtue stuff. This is what I'm trying to do. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
But when you understand life and the way that it goes, it's all going to work itself out. And you got to trust the process. You've got to keep your faith, right? So, but if I could, think back to when I was younger, I would just say the patience factor, and I would also remind myself, like, again, don't glorify man. Don't glorify the things on this earth, because some of the people that I looked up to that were like, I thought the coolest and the biggest ever, they've had their own journey. I don't want to speak negatively on anyone, but it's like, everything's not what you think it is, So like, just worry about you.
Yeah.
Worry about you,
You have had a bunch of like new albums come out, obviously. They're crushing. Level Up, does it ever happen to you where like you hear a song and you don't realize it's yours? Like Level Up, I didn't even realize was a Sierra song, and I was like singing it. And then, but as you're creating today, what does that look like? Like if you want to tap into the muse, if you want to find it, if you want to get your creative juices, what do you do? Is there a process?
Well, it depends on what I'm doing. Musically, it's so funny. I'm actually like really in my Afro diaspora bag right now. And so I kind of like to let life take me wherever it takes me when I'm making music. The cool thing about music is that it's a feeling. It's nothing technical. So that's the place I'm playing in. Like I have my song Nice and Sweet with Molly and Oxley that I just put out.
Yeah.
Molly's from
dance.
Ghana. Yes. Hey, hit it.
I'm not dancing next to you.
That was good. Okay. Molly's from Ghana. Oxley's from Nigeria. And then my friend, also Diamond Platinum's on my song Low. He's from Tanzania. I just recently went to Benin, Cotonou, and I got to get my dual citizenship. I got my passport, the first international artist or American artist or any person to participate in this new program that they had, that His Excellency President Talon granted me the opportunity to have there. And I'm just deeply connected to that place right now, this place right now. So I'm living in that moment, right? Yeah. And I think that when you're like committed to a creative direction, you start to delve deeper into things it's just fun to you, and it just naturally like takes you there. But I think I let life like kind of tell me where I want to go. And then there's also a sonic connection. I can hear sounds or hear a song and be obsessed with, like, I do know where I want to go next right now in my mind. Right now I'm here, but I know what I want to do next. And it may take me a second to just chill and do it. Like, I'm not going to rush it, but I'm also not going to take forever either, But I just go with like what feels, how I feel. Music is a feeling. It's not technical.
I love that. So you're kind of like following your curiosity down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Follow my curiosity, going where the music takes me. Yeah, you just flow with it, But you do, oftentimes when you go in to make music, you do have some kind of ideal direction, because that's what leads you to the producers you want to work with and the writers you want to work with. So you do typically have a creative base, but then there's this thing that when you start to create, then the magic really happens when you just let it happen, right? But you have some kind of like baseline foundation of where you want to start from.
Love that. The question for me and for nobody listening is like the abs. What are we doing?
First of all, let me tell you, you're so sweet, because my abs do not be abbing. Let me tell you why I say that, okay? Okay, listen. I say this because I've had my fourth precious baby, as we all know, and they gave me something called diastasis recti, okay? Some people say diastasis recti or whatever it is, but my ab wall is like kaputs. Wow. So my abs will never be the same, okay? Now, do I work hard to get down and like back to my base weight? I do. I have not gotten back down all the way after my last baby, Amora, and she's almost 2. But I'm giving myself some grace, okay?
You look so good.
I really appreciate that. Russ, he's like, babe, now, whatever you're doing, don't get too crazy, because he likes a little hips to grip, okay?
I know, my husband too.
Yeah,
it's us
I don't
women.
mind
We're
it.
the hard part
No,
on us.
let me tell you something. I was looking at something, I said, now where did that don't come from? Because I've been praying for this all my life. Praying for that dog. The babies Give me something, So I'm like, I'm going to hold on for as long as I can hold on, But your babies they give you some hips. They give you a little bit more, a little bit more than you want sometimes. But it's funny because I'm actually going to really like dive into trying to train my core even better. It's a thing. I'm literally holding on for dear life sometimes because the diastasis makes your belly like push, like the instinct is for it to go out versus like in. Any mom or woman knows. Yeah. So you're like, it's an extra second for the carpet. So it's like,
oh yeah,
keep it together.
I always like that.
Breathe.
I always like that Jamie Lee Curtis thing where she's like, I've been holding my abs in for 30 years. I'm done. She's like, no more. No, my 30 years. I'm out.
Listen, I be baggy because I just be like, I ain't got time for this every day. Now, when I want to get snatched, then I get ready. Like I may eat like different. Like I'm doing a red carpet tomorrow, so today I'm kind of going no carbs. So I'll be strategic. Oh yeah, now the coquitos está bien. See,
doesn't count.
Sí, it's all right.
Well, you're friends with Ashley Graham too, right?
Yes.
So she has some award show tonight that I'm going to with her, and I told her I was like, I'm feeling a little. I call it fluffy. Like I'm feeling a little fluffy lately.
Yeah.
And so I bought a dress specifically because it could wrangle it in the midsection. But I love her because she doesn't give a fuck.
No, she's
like,
amazing.
No, we have another doctor friend who's like trying to like, hey, I want you to do, and Ashley's like, if you try to make me skinny, she's like, no GLP-1s. I'm not into it. And I'm like, I'm over here thinking I would take a GLP-1 if I trusted it,
I don't even know what that is, but
that's like, what are those? What's it called? The thing that's making everybody skinny. In
Hollywood. It's
There's another word for it.
What is that thing called?
Ozempic.
What?
So
this is I'm like, what is it?
Ozempic.
I don't hate
that. Yeah, exactly. So we'll just stay a little thick.
Listen, man, to each his own. I think the greatest thing is we just have to embrace the journey, honestly. Like, give yourself grace when you need. I think that's been probably one of the best things I could have given myself along the way in the journey of motherhood is grace. Because you have to, like, when I say to you, life be lifing, it be turned up, being a mom of multiple kids and, managing all the personalities. I was like saying the other day, I'm like, maybe it's called a mama pist. There's a therapist and there's a mama pist because I'm just telling you, like, everybody's got a different story. Every kid has a different story. They're walking TV stations and they have their own programming. And it's like, who we gonna get today? Okay, got it. Like, I'm ready for everything now, But so grace, though. Good. You got to give yourself grace.
I love this. Okay, I want to end on, what are you most excited for this year? We got 10 to 1. We've got maybe, what else?
So we have 3 brand, which we're super excited about our growth and What's
your favorite piece of clothing from it? Like, if I'm going to go buy for my holidays right now, what are you like? You know what? I love our jerseys.
Well,
I love our...
The thing is we focus more on the youth right now. Mm-hmm. So we're not so much into the adult wear yet.
I'm going to give some gifts
But if you're going to give some gifts, listen, our backpacks are amazing.
Okay, I like
Never go out of style.
Like it.
We just actually rusted this really cool gifting experience for Future's team. And, I don't want to steal his thunder because I don't know what all I can reveal right now, but it was amazing to see how excited they were. And we have cool like duffels and all that stuff. So that's amazing. Our bags are awesome. The gift that keeps on giving. But just the whole clothing assortment, honestly, you have, everything in there that you can need, from great sweatpant, matching sweatpants to great athletic shorts and tees. There's a lot of shirts with great sayings on them and slogans like Go Time. We have Level Up. We have Why Not You.
I love that.
We also have, for not just the Giants community, we have obviously stuff in red, white, and blue, but we have stuff in all colors, right? Which is awesome. So, you will have everything you need in the 3-brand shop. 3brand.com.
I love it.
Go there. But obviously 10 to 1, super focused on this baby. And we are, as you mentioned earlier, proudly the fastest growing and most awarded rum. Again, a great story to tell. We want people to reimagine rum. So we're going to stay on the course to do that.
Can we have your recipe for coquitos?
You sure
Put
can.
it on the website.
Come on,
I
of
like
course,
this.
tú sabes.
Yeah,
No
okay,
problema.
okay. We'll
And
put
then
a little
also,
link in. It's really, I'm not bullshitting. It's really good.
yay, so
I
good,
know,
right?
that's like better than eggnog. I think I'd like switch that out.
Mix it up. I'm telling you, it's a gift that keeps on giving too. Like you give a gift to someone, like Tony was telling me, we were talking about we're Boricuas when we were making it. Boricuas making coquitas. But you can just keep on making it. Like I'm excited to make new coquita for Thanksgiving.
Oh, I love that.
I'm excited for that. And then I also have my skincare line, OAM Skin. Yeah. And OAM stands for On a Mission. I say I'm a woman of ambition on a mission to make clinical skincare simple for all. And I was a girl that used regular body wash and, body lotion on my face. Like I did not give 2 cents about how I was taking care of me in that regard. And, during the pandemic, again, another baby that I also had was OAM. I started building OAM. Probably the perfect muse at that point because you're in the most sensitive place of your, with your skin. And so I started that journey then. My makeup artist, Yolanda, if you see her, like, sorry, Yoli, I always call her out. Everyone knows this, but she does not look her age. She is like a box of like wisdom and like, it's like anything she tells me, I really should listen because if you see this woman, you're going to be like, no way.
Well, you too. Your skin's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want some of that.
Thank you. So, she used to always tell me, she'd be like, did you use your eye cream? Did you use your eye cream? Like, she's just like, just stop, And I'm like, maybe I should listen to her. Cause like, if you see her, like, she does all the right stuff. And so I started to like really take my skincare serious and OAM was the result of that. And, I'll be very transparent. We're a baby company, right? We're in the process now of elevating, our formulations, or I want to say elevating, meaning we're going to increase, we're going to level up because we're going to add more to what we currently have.
What's your favorite product?
So it's funny because we're completely sold out of my one. That's one of my favorites, which is our hydrating cleanser. We've sold out of it multiple times.
Buy. We do some marketing.
Let me tell you, I'm about to do it right now. I'm about to get to it.
Okay.
But I bring it up because I'm so proud that we've sold out of multiple SKUs several times, and we currently have our 20% serum. And which is very special. So it's 20% vitamin C serum. And we have the way that our vitamin C is formulated is it's what we call tricyclopeptide complex. So it allows the vitamin C to release in micro doses throughout the day. So your skin doesn't get irritated when you use vitamin C. And the 20% dosage is a very unique dosage. It's very potent, and it's very rare you see that amount of vitamin C in a product, but that's also another unique component. But when I tell you, it's so good. Like your skin feels hydrated. You feel like it's just a great primer as well. Helps to protect, correct, and prevent. And so we're really big on that, and you can get that now. That is on the site, okay? And then we also have our brightening pads
too.
Yes,
so for like anybody that comments, I don't know, level up, we'll give away a bunch of your favorite products.
Yep.
And my team will buy them and take care of them. So go to YouTube.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And we have our brightening pads, and
we'll
those
give away
are
both.
amazing.
Actually, why don't you tell us your favorite beauty quote or something cute, and we'll pick one.
Favorite beauty quote?
Yeah, and I'll
for like what they have to say.
Them do it. Yeah, and then I'll send it to you, and you can pick which one you like.
Beauty quote? We don't.
Yeah.
What is a beauty quote? Like we don't have.
Like you know what I think about? It's like Marilyn Monroe was like she has so many good ones. She's like, if you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
I love that.
And then Pamela Anderson had one. She's coming into it lately. I like her a lot. She has one that's like, sex is a 3-letter word, but another way. Wait, what did she say? She's like, sexy is a 3-letter word, but it hits as hard as a 4-letter. And I was like, that's such a good one too. Like just being sexy. And
okay, so what I say actually at my company, my label is called Beauty Marks Entertainment. And I say that all the scars you get from the obstacles you face in life are your beauty marks.
Oh, that's hot. Oh, I did see that quote.
Yeah.
That's a
so
good
like
one.
Everything you've gone through, all the stuff that didn't feel so beautiful when you went through it, all those things that felt ugly to you, they always amount to something so beautiful and so much greater than you could even imagine when you're going through them. And so those things are what we call our beauty marks. And even your stretch marks, they're your beauty marks, right?
Oh, I love that.
So yeah.
Sierra, this was amazing. Thank you so much. I'm excited to try your product and give it away. And thank you for being like such a generous soul. I can't believe you like made me. Now I don't have anything for you, but thanks for the gift. Now I owe you one.
Listen, I am like starting to rock over here in this chair. It's so good.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Salut. Thank you.